Why is it rude to say to someone, you guys are getting along, you're in love, you're having fun. Why do you want to get the government involved? What most people call love today was something that was invented in the 50s to sell shampoo. Wow. All three of you have a prenup. The government wrote it. You think that's a good idea? Wow. You ever been to the DMV? Yeah. You ever walk into the DMV and go, these people should be in charge of everything.
You are pro-marriage, you're just anti-marriage without a prenup.
People want to do dumb shit. People jump out of planes. Like, I don't fucking care. Yeah. You want to do some dumb shit? Do some dumb shit. Yeah. Just admit you're doing some dumb shit.
What is your craziest divorce that you
I shouldn't say this in public, but I will. Her husband ran her over 3 times and stabbed her 16 times.
Who's the worst in divorce? Culturally, ethnically, racially?
So look, sometimes stereotypes are a real time saver. Let's just call that out. Like Russian women, in my experience professionally, they get ice cold. When you're married to a Russian woman, there's nothing she won't do for you, and when you're divorcing a Russian woman, there is nothing she won't do to you. Like, she will f your shit right up.
Is there anything that you've learned through all these divorces about what makes marriages successful?
I've learned a lot by being a divorce lawyer about what keeps people together. What I've learned, I would say more than anything else, is just pay attention. People get divorced the same way they go bankrupt. Very slowly, and then all at once.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Flagrant. And today's guest, I just want to point out, was not suggested by any of the people that were sitting here. Okay? They're all happily married or in great relationships, and none of us would suggest such a guest. Okay? A prolific guest, mind you. Okay, we got James Sexton here. The world's most murderous divorce attorney.
Wow. Shit that's going on the website. All right, that was world's most murderous divorce attorney, Andrew Schultz of Netflix fame.
Yeah.
Wow,
No.
that's really,
Obviously, you're incredibly successful. We've seen a bunch of the content that you've put up out on the internet, like mostly interviews that you've done. It's kind of interesting because you've been this divorce attorney for decades, and now you have like a public profile about your job.
So bizarre.
Yes.
So bizarre. I can't actually stand still anywhere in New York City
because people
without
know
someone coming up going, you're that divorce lawyer, you know?
Wow.
And the problem is when you do, like if you're gonna be known for a viral clip, don't be wearing the same outfit you wear every fucking day.
You're like fucking point. I didn't even think
because there's no way to cam. It's like your mustache. Like, you can't hide. Like if you shave that shit, you could probably get away with it for a few days. Yeah, you could blend right in. But
maybe that's what I'm planning.
Without that, that's what you got to do. When you want to take a week or two off, and just get that right out. That's free advice. Free right there.
Are you the new Salino and Barnes for us New Yorkers?
Wow. I could be both Salino and Barnes.
Of course.
Man, that's a high.
They had a bad breakup. Did you work on that divorce?
Shit out of myself. Yeah. You know,
that's a deep cut New York reference. I just want to let you know. These were like iconic New York lawyers, and it was like one of the first like call lines for law advice, right? Like 1-800-888-8888. Did that exist?
Salino had the most
injury attorneys. 1-800-888-8888. There was a lot of eights. And then
they had the most brutal breakup, like epic level breakup. But then what's his? He
died.
One of them
died in a plane crash,
which is like, you know, here you go. Like you finish this brutal hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees trying to get away from each other, and then one of you dies. It's like, fuck.
That's pretty lucky for
the other guy. He was like, shit, I could have saved some counsel.
How many people just kill their wife instead of divorcing them?
Surprising number of people kill.
Have you ever been involved in one of those cases?
I've never had one where someone was killed. I did have a client who her husband or estranged husband, now ex-husband, ran her over 3 times and stabbed her 16 times.
This is during the divorce?
During the divorce. And she survived. Like, this guy couldn't even get that shit right. Like, he stabbed someone 16 times, run him over 3 times, and she's alive to tell the tale, and he's in fucking prison.
Okay, so she got 100%. In the end, probably.
She got 100%. She also had to get like another kidney and some other things. So she lost out.
Probably could afford that on the black market.
Yeah, I mean, with the amount of money, she did all right.
Now, what role do you play in that?
Well, I wasn't like the lookout, if that's what you mean. Like, I was like, there she is! You know,
meaning, like, how much pressure were you putting on him where he just goes, I gotta kill her?
A lot. Yeah. I think you know, when you're dealing with like high net worth and ultra high net worth divorces.
What is high net worth? Just
so high net worth is generally defined as a divorce where the estate is more than $10 million.
Got it.
Ultra high net worth is over $100 million.
Got it.
So it's a different level in some ways because you're fighting over bigger numbers. It's harder to track the values. A lot of the stuff that people do for like wealth preservation and tax avoidance, like super, super rich people don't own anything.
Yeah.
They have trusts that own LLCs that are beneficiaries of, and they're like the great-grandchildren that haven't been born yet own everything, and they just borrow it from them. Like, so that's why they pay like less in taxes than a guy who works at Burger King. So it's unbelievable.
Because they're not actually generating income.
No.
And you only pay tax on income. I guess you could pay capital gains too, but like,
not if you do it the right way. So what happens is these people pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to accountants and tax attorneys to make sure they don't have to pay taxes. But they don't anticipate that when they get divorced, this is just going to blow up in your face.
Wait, why? Why is it?
Because it makes it so complicated to figure out where is the money, what is marital, what is outside the scope of the marital estate, what can the judge get their hands on, what can't they get their hands on. So it becomes a really, really tricky, messy thing.
Do you prefer the ultra high net worth clients, those cases?
I mean, they pay their bill on time, which is nice.
But outside of payment, like, is it just more stressful? Is it more grueling? Is it?
You know, I'm very blessed. I'm at the place in my career now where I have high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, and you can have a smaller number of clients who you give a lot more personalized attention to. Because anybody who's at like a certain level of net worth, they are used to being waited on, and they're used to their professionals. Like they've not romanticized a lawyer. Like they know lots of lawyers, so they look at lawyers like you'd look at like a plumber. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that do this. You work for me. And, you know, they're used to, so you have to give them a certain level of attention. But unlike a plumber, like you do get to yell at them. Like you do get, like, and sometimes that's what they want.
This is interesting. Yeah, you're almost like an authority figure.
Yeah, I am.
Even though, okay, you are. Even though they're hiring you. That's really, it's like there's few positions where you're subservient to the person you're hiring. Like a trainer is one of them. Like your trainer can yell at you, tell you you're being lazy, get your ass together, stop eating this shit. There's lawyer, and then maybe like doctor.
Yeah, I mean, the two people you should never lie to are your doctor and your lawyer. Because like everything you tell us, every single thing you tell us is protected by privilege, and there's absolutely our only job's to protect you.
How do you do that in the beginning? So you're sitting down with somebody, and you could tell they're being a little fugazi about the information. How do you just go, dude, you're gonna screw yourself if you don't tell me where the fucking bodies are buried.
I literally say that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't pull any punches on it. Like I very much. But what I usually will say to them, just to kind of like take it to a place that they can understand, is I'll say, look, I just want at the beginning of this relationship, I want you to understand, I represent people who've been victims of domestic violence. I represent perpetrators of domestic violence. I represent people who are, by any objective standard, amazing parents. And I represent people who just want to put the kids in the middle for leverage for child support purposes. And I am no one's moral compass. I'm a weapon. And a weapon in the hands of a hero, right,
is
going to protect people. And a weapon in the hands of the villain is going to cause chaos. But the weapon is kind of neutral, right?
Who's the worst person you've defended?
Who I mean, obviously, a lot of my clients I can't disclose who they are, except
not in actual. What did they do? Like, what did they do?
Oh, I've represented people who are, you know, by any objective metric, are you know, malignant narcissists. I mean, so unfortunately, the traits that make people very successful, particularly in high finance, which is what New York is really like. My colleague Laura Wasser is in LA. She represents like every celebrity you've ever seen. I represent a lot of people in finance who could buy those celebrities 10 times over, but would walk past you on the street, you never know who they were.
Do you represent any current or former presidents by any chance?
No presidents yet. No presidents yet. They all seem to keep it together right now. Clinton, I got my fingers crossed.
How do you
Obama, maybe. Real quick, because I don't want to get away from that. The reason why I was asking that question, like the worst person you've represented, like talking to you even before, you don't seem like a sociopath. Like you seem like, and even watching videos of you, like you seem like quite like empathetic. You have a lot of emotion, right? I've seen you get like sensitive in interviews for sure. So I understand, and there's a lot of times this happens with like defense attorneys. You go, how could you represent this person?
It's a great question.
So you're representing sometimes scumbags.
Awful people, awful people.
Is there ever a moment where you're like, I can't fight for this guy?
No, because
real quick, just a caveat. This guy abuses his kids, or this woman abuses her kids, and by fighting for custody, I'm enabling the abuse of those kids.
So you have that thought. Like so first of all, yes, I'm a sensitive person. I don't think I could do this job well if I wasn't. Because to do this job well, it's just like, I think it's like being a comic. I think you have to have a sensitivity.
Yep.
You have to be able to read what's going on with this
100%.
audience, and you have to know what's working, what's not, and be able to shift, right? So it's the same exact thing. It's just my audience is a judge. So, and I'm really here, like our job's the same. We're here to manipulate people's emotional states.
Yeah.
That's our job. Like your job is to manipulate people. You want them to laugh, relax, and enjoy.
Yeah.
I want the other side to be scared. I want my client to feel safe. I want the judge to like my client and hate the other side. So I'm here just manipulating everybody's emotional state. And to do that well, I have to be very open, receptive, empathetic, and sensitive.
Got it.
The downside of that is, I'm sensitive. I'm
feeling all
empathetic.
that
I feel
shit.
a lot of it. I represent the client, but I also represent the system. And I don't always believe in the client, but I believe in the system.
Give me an example of that where those.
I was talking about it on Mark's show some time ago when I represented a guy who was a pimp, like literally a pimp. That was his job. Like he actually was, he's in federal prison now for guns, but he was an atrocious human being. He was an abuser. And I was up against an adversary who was an unskilled attorney and very, like, it was all this woman could afford.
Oof.
And I absolutely ran her over. And we walked out of court, and the guy pat me on the back, and he said, "Man, one good lawyer's worth 20 stick-up men." And I just remember thinking, like, I want to go home and just take a shower right now because that just feels dirty.
Crazy.
But
so you do have that. I've always wondered if lawyers had that feeling.
Of course.
And then can you compartmentalize that?
I think you have
and move on.
I think you have to, because look, what I'll tell you is the truth has a way of coming out, sometimes despite my best efforts.
Meaning
like
that guy ends up in federal prison.
Well, that's what ended up happening with that guy. Is he ended up in federal prison. I mean, I think the truth has a way of coming out. I have to tell my clients that sometimes. Like, look, I can throw up a lot of smoke and mirrors, but shit comes out. Like, the truth comes out.
I have so many questions. I'm sure everybody else does, but very exciting. Okay, so there's this thing with lawyers where, like, a lot of times our engagement with lawyers is usually during maybe the worst times in our lives.
Sure.
Right? So the connectivity that we have with lawyers is like, it's pretty abysmal, right? Yeah. But when you need help and a lawyer is helping you, they are heroic, as you just said. Yeah. And you've seen like TV shows that talk about, like Lincoln Lawyer was a great movie with McConaughey. Now they have this TV show where the lawyer is protecting the innocent that are wrongfully accused, et cetera. Like you've seen it with Joe Pesci and
My Cousin Vinny.
My Cousin Vinny and that kind of stuff.
Suits.
Are there ever moments where you get to be the hero?
Yeah.
And what does that feel like?
That feels amazing. That's intoxicating.
Give me an example of like somebody who you protected. It was like a woman who was being abused, kids.
I'll give you a great one. I'm a dog person. I love dogs.
Yeah.
So I had a woman come in and she said to me, described this situation of like coercive control, domestic violence she'd been in for ages. And this guy was controlling, abusive in the worst possible ways, like insidious ways, but also was an incredibly charming narcissist. So like no one would ever suspect. Like if you said to anybody, this guy was an abuser, they'd be like, him? He's the nicest guy. Are you kidding me?
Right.
And she told me her story. She said, "I'm afraid nobody's going to believe me." He said to me, "No one will ever believe you. I'll make sure you're penniless. I'll do whatever I have to do to like crush you." And I'm listening to this, and I've handled a lot of domestic violence cases before. So I was like, okay, look, the system has a way of sorting these things out, and let's talk about what we can prove and what we can't. And she said, I have something. She said, we have a puppy. We have a 6-month-old black lab puppy. And the Ring camera of our doorbell caught him just beating the shit out of this 6-month-old puppy. And I was like, and you have that footage? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, okay, like give me everything you have and I'll take a look. And I sat there that night and I watched this footage. And as a dog lover, like I was shaking. Yeah. I mean, it was to listen to it, to hear it, like to watch this guy just beating this puppy. And the puppy like is a puppy, its tail's wagging, it's trying to like kind of get away from him and like it doesn't understand what's going on.
Christ.
And I just remember looking at it and thinking like, I'm gonna torture this fucking guy to death. And I called her the next day and I said, I'll take your case. And she was like, well, I'm worried I can't afford you. I'm like, I'll cut my hourly rate in half. I was like, I just want a piece of this fucking guy.
No pro bono.
So I got,
no pro bono.
Yeah, no pro bono.
50% off. He didn't kill the dog. Dog's all right.
Yeah, dogs forget.
I gotta eat. Oh no.
Okay. All right. So how did you torture
I'm
him?
sorry, that just shook me a little bit.
It's
Worse than the memory of the dog video. Horrible.
For free.
Yeah, free. God, hold on. Jesus, I cut my rate in half, guys. That's impressive. That's only like $500. I mean, that's pretty good. So I took on the case, and it was like a professional hit. Like I got this guy thrown out of his house. It happened to get assigned to a judge who I knew liked dogs, who had a court attorney who I knew liked dogs. So I just made a meal out of this, like you wouldn't believe. And I actually, when I got to the courthouse, I shouldn't say this in public, but I will. I'm close enough to retirement, I can get away with it. I actually went up to the court officers who are, the security for the building, they're armed, And I said to him, by the way, this is, because I had mentioned that there was this case coming in where I had video of this guy beating the dog. And you ever want to see like people's vindictive side come out? Tell them somebody beat up a puppy. It's like, I have to tell you, people, like a little old lady would be like, kill the motherfucker. So I said to the court officer, I said, listen, I said, this case is in today. They said, oh, that guy's today? I said, yeah. I said, and by the way, I said, if he and I ended up in the restroom at the same time together, he started whatever fight happened. And they were like, absolutely. In fact, we heard him shouting at me. I was like, thanks, man, but sure enough, like that was a case where that single piece of evidence was able to just neutralize his ability to go in and be a charming person.
Because you saw the real side of him that he talked about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the more he went in trying to be charming, as opposed to saying like... The more psycho he looks.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And the more full of shit he is. Sometimes you see a person, and you can see it in smaller examples, but that's such a crystal clear example of like, oh, everything you say is bullshit. This is you. This is you. And everything she says, I'm going to believe.
Well, and that's exactly what you say to the judge. Because I said to the judge, I'm like, Judge, for every cockroach you see, there's 50 in the walls. Like, we caught this on video.
Yeah.
Like, how many
this
other
isn't the
times
only
did
time
this
he's done
happen?
something.
How many other times? Like, when was the camera not rolling in the last...
And the next time I'm in court, it'll be another cockroach. So just remember that for my case specifically.
That's like when Diddy did the apology video, but then the hotel video came out and was like, we looked at that apology video as such bullshit.
Yeah, you're a psycho.
Yeah. And this is in the lobby of the hotel. That's in the entrance of the house. We're not seeing what's actually happening behind closed doors. You know what I mean?
So perpetrators of domestic violence are, in my experience, like they're charming. Like, how else would they get victims?
Yeah.
Like, the way there are people that are great at love bombing. They're great at like convincing a person that, oh my God, I would never hurt you. I care so much about you. And then when something happens, doing the whole like, I'm so sorry that happens. I love you so much. It'll never happen again.
It's really interesting because a lot of times when they're portrayed in like TV or film, they're these like drunken asshole scumbags.
No way.
But there was that show. I don't know if it was Pretty Little Liars or something. Not Pretty Little Liars. The one that takes place in Silicon Valley. It had Nicole Kidman.
I know what you're talking
Big
about.
Little Lies.
Big Little
Lies. The husband of Nicole Kidman was an abuser.
And was a great portrayal of what they're
what they
like.
actually are like.
Yeah, good looking, charming, successful.
Great with the kids, like all these things.
Well, because a lot of that like adjustment personality disorder, that like sociopath behavior, that ability to sort of blend into your circumstances, it makes people very effective in their professional lives because they can just go into whatever setting and be whoever they need to be in that setting. But in their home life, it turns into something that, that's chaos when you have to deal with those DV cases.
I'm not going to say who because it's not worth it, but we all know that at my wedding, the guy gave a speech, leveled the room. So funny, so charming. And then behind closed doors, it's just like, oh, this is a monster. It's a whole different human being.
You thought my speech was funny?
That's funny you think we're that close.
I'm going to be like this now with Mark.
All right, guys, you also got to buy tickets. First of all, Columbus, Ohio, 2 shows have already sold out. The only 2 shows that have some tickets left are March 28th. Hurry up and buy those. Then I'm in Tampa from April 10th through the 13th. We got 8 shows, but most of the tickets are already gone. I think there's like 5 left at every show except April 13th, so buy tickets to that. April 17th through 20th, it's my favorite weekend of the year. No disrespect to any other city, but Comedy Works Denver is is probably the best comedy club in the country. Shouts to Wendy. But I'm going to be there 17th, 18th, and 19th, and then on 420. As always, we're doing a high show, gummies, maybe shrooms, who knows? All those dates and more at akashsingh.com. Also, man, there's some fucked up things going on with stand-up in India, so just if you look like me, make some noise about it if you don't live in India, because they'll actually listen to us. If you're white, make some noise about it, because India's dying for white people's approval. So just see what's going on, and shouts to the Habitat Comedy Club. Love you guys. Love you, Bolraj. Let's get back to the show.
What's up, guys? World's fastest ad read. Don't skip, okay? I want everyone to come out to my shows on the road platonically and don't do anything weird. I'm going to be in Bangor, Maine. I'm going to be in Portland, Maine.
Hey, Maine, suck his dick, mine!
I'm going to Charleston, South Carolina, Atlanta, Stroudsburg, PA, Hoboken, Indianapolis, Buffalo, Raleigh, Portland, Fort Worth, Austin, Stamford, Connecticut, Philadelphia, Levittown, Chandler, Arizona, San Diego, Montreal, Toronto, and Poughkeepsie, all on my website, themarkgagnon.com.
South Carolina, go south on his dick!
Check it out. I think everything's on sale Friday or something, but I'll see you guys on the road. Love you. Thanks. Bye. You had mentioned to me that you kind of enjoy representing bad people.
Oh my God, I got pilloried for that, by
Did
the
you
way.
really?
Well, you put that clip up, and all of a sudden, all the comments were like, look at this scumbag, you know, how dare you?
Great job,
know?
Mark.
And I was like, great, yeah, thanks a
You're
lot.
a weapon. You're a weapon.
But I said, like, I'm sorry you live in a democracy. Like, we have a system. Everyone's entitled to have counsel. And by the way, it's not like fucked up people come in and at the consult go, listen, I'm a straight piece of shit. I've been beating this woman for years, and I just need you to help me get out of it. Like, it's not how it works.
They come in like a victim.
They come in and they're like, listen, she's crazy. She attacks me. And once I had like push her off me, and she hit against the wall, but now she's going to falsely accuse me of domestic violence. And you sit there and you're and sometimes I'm in court. When I'm, sitting, my client's next to me, and I realize like, oh shit, I've got the villain. Okay, all right, like that was not great, because it's not surprising. Like when people tell you the story of their life, they're usually the fucking hero of the story. Like rarely do they come in and go, listen, I'm all fucked up. It's one of the few things that like stand-ups I think do very well. Is they come in and just go, I'm so fucked up. Whereas most people come in and just go like, oh, listen, I'm wonderful, I'm great, and then you sort of learn progressively, and you start to look at their text messages, and also there's like human growth too, like who you were 10 years ago and who you are now. I had a client once who was a custody case about like a 10-year-old. And when the woman was pregnant, when the mother was pregnant, so 11 years earlier, he had sent her all these text messages saying, because they'd been dating for like 2 months, like, you need to get an abortion, I don't want this baby, if you have this baby, I want nothing to do with it, And of course, he'd been for 10 years a phenomenal father, loves his. And the other side, in our exchange of discovery, you have to share all your ammunition in advance, because it's not supposed to be trial by surprise. They sent me these text messages.
Real quick, so everybody understands that, is that like all the information that both lawyers are going to use in court has to be shared with both lawyers.
Exactly right.
So no lawyer is going, but you didn't see this text.
Exactly right. So anything you're going to put in, like photographs, audio recordings, video, you have to exchange it in advance. So
that's called discovery?
It's called discovery, and it's a process where it's meant so that everyone has the opportunity to like review something, make sure it's authentic, have it reviewed by experts if they need to, and also
have
to
a
prepare
rebuttal
their case. Prepare their case as best they can. You're not allowed to like trial by surprise. Like, did you order the code red? It doesn't really work that way. Like what you have to do is you have to exchange the stuff. So they'd sent these text messages, and my attitude was, okay, we got to get in front of this. Like we got to like Eminem 8 Mile final rap battle this. Like I got to go in and like cover this and be like, now tell these people something they don't know about him. I got to do something with it. So that's exactly what I did. I put him on the stand and I said, you see these text messages? Did you send these texts? And he said, yeah. And I said, is that how you felt at the time? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, how do you feel when you read those text messages now? And this guy legitimately started crying on the witness stand. And he was like, I'm so mad at myself. He's like, and I'm so horrified. And I'm so, like, if she'd listened to me, I wouldn't have my son. Like, and he's like, but I know I was like, just stupid and scared.
and I'm watching opposing counsel just crossing out whole pages of their cross-examination because we got in front of it, you know? But that is like what happens.
And that's also like a more human, relatable moment. Like it is terrifying. I imagine when somebody gets somebody pregnant and they're not aware of it, they don't know what to do, and that's this knee-jerk reaction, and you sound horrible. And then you have 10 years with the most amazing thing you've ever created, and you are just so embarrassed that you could have made one flippant decision that eliminated those 10 years.
Well, and that's why, you know, when people say like representing good people and bad, like if only we could just put people in boxes of good people and bad people and just separate them. But like, you know, the line of good and evil runs right through the human heart. So I think at the end of the day, what you have to say, like, if I judge your husband being a husband, your ability to be a husband by your best moment as a husband, you're a phenomenal husband. If I look at the worst moment you've ever had as a husband, and that's the totality of you.
I'm bottom
but that's
5.
not how it works. You kind of have to average
Bottom
it
5.
out.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's an interesting thing too, because I imagine in divorce or in an argument or in anything, the only thing that we're focusing on are the worst moments of that person's life. So I'm sure the husband and the wife in those circumstances are just judging them by the most horrible things that they've done, when in reality there's probably amazing memories. I'm not talking about domestic violence people. I'm talking about people that had a marriage and then it became loveless and they're like, let's separate, and now it gets contentious over kids or assets. 100%. But again, you're just focusing on these horrible things. Not a beautiful vacation you guys went to, not a great time you guys cooked dinner together, the laughs. And again, maybe this doesn't make you enough money, but is there ever... Not enough money, but is there ever a moment like in divorce where both lawyers are going, hey, should we try? These people don't hate each other. Nobody did something heinous. How can we not prolong this?
No,
do you guys do that at all or no?
100%. The best of us absolutely do that. Like this is like you live and die by a reputation in this business. And if you're the kind of person that just exacerbates conflict, you don't last long in this business.
Because why? It looks like you're just trying to milk it, and then the lawyers get rich and everybody else suffers.
And your client leaves with a really bad taste in their mouth because they see that you're just amplifying. Like my job very often is to protect people from the part of themselves that's feeling brokenhearted and vindictive.
Oh, so
like people come in and they're like, I caught him fucking his secretary. I want to rip his nuts off. I want to kill him. And my job is to go, look, you have every right to feel the way that you feel. But let's focus on the issues right now. Like you're going to have grandkids with this person someday. You're stuck with him.
You're going to see him for the rest of your life, no matter what.
Like I have an ex-wife. Trust me, I got to sit next to her at graduations. I got to sit next to her. It's what you do. So you have to learn how to interact with this person. And you try to say to them, look, most people, the good news is most people love their kids more than they hate their ex. Like most people's love for their children is the most powerful thing they have. I mean, I know we've got 2 relatively new fathers here, So, I mean, the truth is that is a powerful emotion that very often will make you put down a lot of other stuff. And so it really turns into something where our job is to try to bring out the angels of people's better nature. So I always tell clients, like, in a negotiating table in a courtroom, I'm a weapon. My job is to just go at a person and attack and do that.
But before you get there,
when the door is closed, and it's me and my whole thing is, look, I'd rather you pay her than pay me. Like, stand down. Like, let's not do this. Put your kids through college, not mine. Like, let's figure out how to do this the right way. If I get a sense when I do a consult with somebody that they have any chance that they could go to a mediator instead of using lawyers and they could sit, I'll send them right to a mediator. I probably send 2-3 cases a week to mediators.
Is that what is like the process?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of paths up the mountain, but the ideal process is 2 people sit down and they map out, what do you want to do with the kids? What's going to make sense? Like, well, you work this night, I work this night, so you'll have the kids this night or that night. I mean, ideally, people could sit down at the kitchen table with a piece of paper and just map it out. But second best is you go to a mediator. That's a person who's usually an attorney or an accountant who's trained, who knows what issues to talk about. And they walk through it with you and they'll say, all right, here's the things we have to decide. And they don't represent either person, they represent both people in a sense. The next step from that is you get 2 attorneys that work collaboratively, that just don't come at each other, don't try to vilify either side, and just try to work, come up with identifying assets, valuing them, and how to divide them, figuring out what's going on, and just doing it that way. The thing I've got very good at over the course of 25 years is the warfare part of it, like the courtroom. So the people that come to me now tend to be people that have that kind of a complex case.
Yeah.
And they need someone who knows how to do that particular set of skills, which is why I have all of these amusing anecdotes of like chaos. But the truth is, like the majority of divorce lawyers, it's really just about a negotiation. It's about trying to sort of, work with people in a way that doesn't amp up the conflict.
Yeah, 56% of people get divorced. It can't be 56% warfare.
No, it's actually thankfully a really small percent.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
But the outliers, like very few people can just like hold hands, sing kumbaya, and like write it down and solve it. Very few people go to war.
Yep.
But you hear about the war because it's way more fucking interesting. Like if I don't get invited to a lot of parties, but if I'm at a cocktail party and someone says, "What do you do?" I say, "I'm a divorce lawyer," and they're gonna go, "Oh my God, you must have stories." And if I said, "I do," there was this couple and they were married and then they slowly grew apart from each other. So they decided how they would like amicably resolve their differences financially, and they shared their time with the children. They'd be like, "That's the worst fucking story." Like they want to hear the like, "No," and then he took a chainsaw and he cut the car in half. And then he said, "Pick which half you want, bitch." Like that. True story, by the way. True story. Yeah.
What is your let's go there. What is your craziest divorce that you
Well, I mean, the guy who ran the lady over and stabbed her 16 times.
Fun crazy.
Fun crazy?
No, it doesn't have to be fun.
Just
absolute insanity. You're involved in this case. You're like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah, I mean, I've had ones where like there's a lot of cash involved. So I had one where they over the years, guy was a dentist and he took a lot of cash. And what he used to do is he used to wad it up in like these round things and then fill tennis ball cans with cash. And then they had a jacuzzi in the backyard and he lined the jacuzzi thing with these tennis ball cans.
Wow.
So there was like $800,000 of cash in the lining of the jacuzzi. And I actually had to bring in an expert to testify to the size of the jacuzzi and the size of how much could be held in the tennis cans to ascertain what the value of the money that he had then removed from the jacuzzi was.
He took it out.
Took it all out. And he was like, "What money? I don't know what you're talking about. There's no proof of it." So that kind of stuff is like always an interesting, bizarre puzzle. But yeah, I mean, people are constantly cutting shit in half. I mean, the ones that shock me are the people who come in and and by the way, like Apple technology is responsible for more divorces than they
That's real discovery right there.
Sorry, shots fired, Steve Jobs. I'm sorry, Tim Cook's gonna my iPhone's gonna stop working now. Love your products, don't do that to me, man. But the truth is, like, there's the whole integration of the different devices. Like a lot of people don't realize, like, your fucking text messages are coming up on the iPad that your kid's playing with. And then your wife. Like you're upstairs texting with the girlfriend about like it was so great last night, and then the kid is like bing, 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 and mom comes over like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "I don't know, the cartoon stopped." And mom's like, "What is this?" And all of a sudden there's naked pictures of the girlfriend, and she's reading in real time, and this happens like once a week. I get one of those cases.
Okay, question about that. Do you think those people are just at the point where they're okay getting caught? Because that seems so foolish.
Yeah, I ask myself that question a lot because sometimes people are so brazen
that it's just like
you kind of go, like
on some level, subconsciously, you're like,
I mean, subconsciously,
they're just cowards. They can't end it, and they're like, I just need some. If something does happen where it does end, I'm okay with it, but I don't.
Quiet quitting.
Yeah, I think a lot of them feel. Patrice O'Neill had a thing he used to say about
won me over, right?
He had a great thing about how he said, cheating. If you think about it, is a man. He said, a man is leaving his home to get some happiness without hurting your feelings.
Go to fuck a girl behind a dumpster.
Right. Like, but
to get a little bit of happiness.
So I think a lot of these
without
guys,
hurting your
feelings.
Cheating is for you.
Yeah, it's for you. Yeah, and I remember like hearing that and going like, but when you spend enough time with people who've cheated, that's legit how they're like, look, I love her. I love her. But we don't have that anymore. Like we have this, like we're running a daycare center together. And like I love her. I like coming home to her. I like her mom. I like her brother. Like we all get along. I like all the stuff we do. I like our home. I like our life. But like I want to fuck sometimes. Like, and I don't mean, like I had a friend who once said to me, like,
prostitution,
the moment you know you're in a relationship is when you're in the middle of sex and you think, one of these days I've got to get laid.
You know, and I think that most married men do not acknowledge that this is correct.
No,
But
it's a bit. It's a
married men, it's a bit.
Yeah.
Most married men will go, oh yeah, okay. Like I kind of get that. Like the difference, because again, I think there is something really true about you can't, some of the freaky shit you want to do in your head, blame Pornhub, you know, it's on all everybody's heads.
Yeah.
You're not going to do that with the person that then you'll be like, okay, so which of us is going to bathe the kids now? Like you're not going to do that. So I think men sometimes move away from that kind of a connection with their spouse, and then they say, look, I don't want to hurt her. I don't want to lose my
seek it
family.
in other places,
I want to chase this shiny object. And by the way, like, I mean, look at how many half-naked women we are exposed to on a daily basis, thanks to Instagram and TikTok and everything else.
So it's our fault, really. We have to keep degrading the women we love. Is that
I mean, I don't think that's bad advice. I mean, so insofar as they at some point enjoyed that, yes. Like if you started out that way and then you said, she might secretly be like, why don't you ever
you've had
like a filthy slut anymore? Like I'm also a mom, but I'm also a filthy slut.
Yeah, I'm both.
Like,
we can be both.
You can be both. I think you probably.
So Mark, that's why our parents are still married.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is, bro.
Yeah, my dad got like the gimp costume in the
sauce.
basement, you know? Like,
There's no Madonna whore complex. You gotta just put them together.
put 'em
okay?
together.
Parents got 8 kids. I could have told you they were doing some wild shit.
My dad always makes this comment. We'll be at dinner. He's like, you know, Amanda, you still got that nurse outfit? And everyone's like, Dad, what the fuck?
Wow.
He's like, I'm joking. But, dude,
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's interesting.
But yeah, I
Oh,
think
that's
cheating
fun.
is one of those things. I mean, I joke that I've got a PhD in cheating because you listen to people who've been cheated on, you listen to people who've done the cheating, but the people that I'm shocked by are the people that like they know their spouse is cheating. Like they had one of those iMessage moments, or they like the cameras catch stuff, all the little Nest cams, security cams, the baby cams, nanny cams, catch stuff. And they don't let the spouse know that they know it. And they're like 3-4 months in to like, I watched this person having sex with their mistress on the nanny cam.
Oh, Jesus.
And I'm still sitting across the table from them. And I find myself thinking like, how the fuck do you keep that?
Yeah, you're the
calm?
sociopath, actually.
Yeah, I mean,
I
it
see
feels
why
a
that
little
person
like
cheated.
that.
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
go, how are you not like just losing your shit on this person at all? You know, but people can.
And why do you think?
Kids usually, or
I think it's I don't know. I think it's a combination of like if they say it out loud, it's real.
Yeah,
And I think
they're in
there's-
denial.
Yeah, sometimes people come into my office and like they have a very hard time. There's tissues on like every desk because people are just having to say it out loud. You know, having to like say out loud like, yeah, this thing's broken. You know.
Yeah, you also see why like sometimes it's forgivable for people. Like I think sometimes when you're like young and in a relationship and you don't have like children or anything like that, and there's like a cheating thing, it's like the one thing you can't do. It's like,
well, I got to tell you, we're in modern society. Like, what I will tell you is a lot more people come back from cheating than you'll ever know.
so yeah, I'm interested to talk about that, not for personal reasons at all. No, nothing to do with that. But yeah, I feel like when you have X amount of kids, you have homes, you have a life that you guys all enjoy, and then the husband does some when the wife does it, I bet the dads are like, fuck this, it's fucking over. But when the husband does some shit, I wonder if some of the wives are like, ugh, does he not have a relationship with her? Is it a one-time fucking
well, it depends what the shit is.
Right.
It depends what you do.
Well, and the question.
Wait, what do you mean by that? What do you
Well,
mean
like,
by
it depends on the nature of the infidelity.
Yeah, if you get your dick sucked while you're on a trip with the boys or something like that, that's different than if you're fucking like her friend in the community. Because now you're embarrassing her, and there's this whole.
Well, what I'll tell you is
I think matter a lot.
the difference between men and women is when a woman gets caught cheating, the man's first question is, "Did you fuck him?"
Wow.
And the woman's first question is, "Do you love her?"
Do you love her?
Because that's the distinction. And I will tell you in my experience, and again, don't fucking pillory me for this one, guys. I didn't make up gender roles. I'm just observing what's sitting on the other side of the fucking desk.
Yeah.
But what I'm not talking about you guys. I mean the comments. The reality is that women are much more forgiving of those things because I think there is a part of them that goes, yeah, you're a fucking idiot.
You're a guy.
Like you're an idiot. You're a guy. Like this had nothing to do with me.
And
this
there's
has
so
to do
much
with
to
you.
lose.
Yeah.
That you losing so much.
Yeah.
Whereas a man allowing his wife to cheat,
Yeah.
he's lost his entire identity as a man.
But what's
I don't
heartbreaking?
think a woman loses anything as a woman when we cheat because the expectation of us is we're a bunch of fucking idiots that can't stop putting our dick and stuff.
Yep.
They spend the majority of their lives telling guys that they don't want to fuck them.
Yeah.
So when they do, you must have wanted that shit.
The problem I have too is
Real quick, Bill Maher while I was doing this pod with Bill Maher, he had a funny idea, and he was like, I oftentimes hear female rappers say this thing like, "I'm gonna steal your man," like "I'm gonna steal your man," and it's like, oh no.
Yeah.
It's like that's
take
the
that
hardest.
dumpster fire.
How the hell you stole me? Like it's the easiest thing in the world. That's some like hard task to do.
No, it's the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah. Stealing somebody's girl is tough because you're taking away from a life
Well,
you
that's
really
why.
love.
Right. That's why I've always said the whole thing of a hall pass. Is the fucking dumbest deal in the world for men.
Yes.
Because like think about it. If I say, you know, all right, with my girl, if I say to her, like, all right, we each have a hall pass, and she goes, okay, mine's Bradley Cooper, and I say, okay, mine is, I don't know, Angelina Jolie,
she could fuck
whatever.
him.
The chances of me, if I meet her in the first class lounge and I go, listen, just so you know, I have permission if you want to go have a little something. And, you know, but the chances of like a guy being like, you know, if she went, listen, I'm allowed to suck your dick right now, you'd be like, I got 10 minutes. It's never a good deal for the men.
Well, because we pick the wrong people.
I'm being ambitious, you know.
You got to pick
camera setup. You know?
Fucking JetBlue flight attendant, and then some gay guy with tits, and you're just like, that's the one who I'm going to cheat.
Yeah, that's all.
Something attainable.
But it really is one of those things that I think with women, what I do feel bad for women about is the women who have been cheated on. They've said, okay, you know what? I'm going to look past this. We have family, we have kids and stuff like that. No, what I actually feel bad is that how other women, they have to suffer in silence, because if they told any of the women in their life, I'm taking him back, they would be fucking excoriated. They would be destroyed. Like, you ever want to read vitriolic comments? Any woman like who takes back a man who cheated on her, like Beyonce got way more shit than Jay-Z.
She had to put out a whole album.
Because it had, she had to like beat him up somehow to have some redemption. And again, from other women. Because women were like, how dare you take him? Because it has to, if she left him,
that's social
she'd have been the girl boss. She'd have been the, he has no right to do that.
Wouldn't that be the same for men, though? If a girl cheats and a guy takes her back, wouldn't guys
same
fucking...
thing. Same thing. You get pilloried for it. You So you have to suffer in silence. You have to not tell people that this happened, which, by the way, it is a hard thing for people to come back from, rebuild trust from. People do it all the time. People do it all the time. And usually what it is, they come into my office, they're like, I want to kill him, I want him out, I want to file tomorrow. And I have done this long enough that I'll go, okay, listen, if we want to do it, and on Monday we'll still do it. But this just happen.
Hang out a second.
Let's take a breath. Let's get our ducks in order. Let's, you know. And usually a couple days later, they'll call me and they'll say, you know what, we talked, and then we're going to go talk to someone, we're going to go to a counselor. And very often I never hear from that person again, and I think that they figure out a way to navigate it.
Do kids make a difference?
Yeah. Kids make a huge
Massive.
You have, look, you have a tremendous reason to keep it together if you have children. I mean, you're fully going, in best case scenario, you're going to lose a huge chunk of time with your children. You're going to lose the support of a co-parent. I mean, it's difficult to raise a child with two people. It's difficult with one person. It's incredible.
It's almost impossible, dude. It's like, unless you have help, I can't believe it.
Yeah, it's very challenging. So I think that people have, the more skin you have in the game, you know, like that's why I always say, like, the ultra people say, like, oh, it must be really hard representing like super wealthy people. I'm like, no, they have enough money to buy another fucking house and another apartment and another place in the Hamptons, so they each have one, and they have nannies that travel between both places, so there's stability for the kids.
Sometimes they keep the kid in the same house, and the parents
nesting.
Nesting.
The parents, the kids have the nest.
So the kids never have to leave, which is really
and the
awesome.
parents each get an apartment, and they kind of come back and forth with the kids. And, you know, look,
but that's like a huge privilege. How many people can own free home? Like it's but that is probably the best for the children, because now they're not packing a bag literally every single week.
You know what I'll tell you is, we don't know who discovered water, but it probably wasn't a fish. Like when a kid grows up in an environment where mom was here, dad was here, and I spent time with each other, that's just all they know. Like, okay, that's how it was. Like, when a kid's 10, 11, 12, and suddenly mom and dad who were living together are living in different places, that's traumatic. That's challenging. But if you're a 2-year-old And now it's like, okay, dad lives here,
That's your
mom
life.
lives here, and I spent. When you ask that person when they're in high school, like, what was your childhood like? They'll say, like, well, I don't know, like it was. Yeah, I lived with mom sometimes, dad sometimes. I spent time with both of them. It's
Also,
kind
if
of
you
what it
grow up
was.
in like New York City, where divorce is pretty popular, it's probably easier for you to do. But I agree with you. Like the kids can be absolutely destroyed if it happens when they're a little bit older, a little bit smarter, and aware of what's going on.
Yeah.
And I see a lot of divorce where the kids are kind of being used as like a leverage tool.
Yeah.
That's really fucked up. Is there ever a time where you like step in? You go, why are we?
I try to do that a lot. I mean, what I always say is that the person who cares less about the children has tactical advantage in a custody proceeding.
Wow.
In the same way that a bank robber has tactical advantage over the cops because they can shoot innocent bystanders. Like the cops can't just spray with a machine gun and hope they'll hit one of the robbers.
Yeah.
But robbers can just spray and hope they hit the cops. Like they can run over the sidewalk, whereas cops can't do
how would that work in the court proceeding, for example?
You
The person
know,
who cares
by
less.
by insidiously alienating a child from their co-parent, by injecting into the child like a dislike or a fear of your co-parent so that you get custody. I mean, by the way, most of the time this isn't just done as a vindictive thing, it's also done for financial reasons. Because if you have the children more than 50% of the time, you get child support. And that's a big chunk of money. New York State, one kid's 17% of your gross income less FICA, 2 kids is 25%, 3 kids 29%, 4 kids 31%. So like of your gross income.
Think about that.
is
That's
what you're
before
paying in
taxes.
child
So
support.
if you're spending 50% of taxes, like say you're some rich person, 31% is going to your wife and the children.
If you got 4 kids,
If you got 4 kids, and only if she gets them 51% of the time,
Right.
you still got to provide for your life.
It'd be a lot cheaper to just hire a nanny and fight for custody. And that's what ends up happening.
And there's alimony that goes along with that?
There can be spousal support that goes along with that.
But think about it. So if it goes to 50% and you hire the nanny,
yeah.
at 51% to 50%, there's no real difference in the amount that you're going to see your children. But the difference in the amount that you're giving to that woman,
Massive.
who now you hate and hates you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and by the way, there's no one like doing an accounting to make sure it's spent on the kids.
That's the
so
other thing
like
you hear a lot,
sometimes it's like that was meant to be for the kids and it was used for the tit job.
Yeah.
Or it was used for like sex toys with the new boyfriend.
And how is that decided who gets custody?
In New York, we have what's called the best interest standard, but most states have some variation of that, and it's as subjective and crazy as you'd think it is. Like it really is full context storytelling. Like you go in as a lawyer and you just have to try to tell the story of why your client is stable, consistent, reliable, and a good parent, and why the other side is less than, and why the
This
other side.
may be a New York thing, but I always hear that the mother always gets the custody.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty common misconception, and I understand why people say that, because I think women fight much harder for custody than men do, and I'll tell you why. Like, and I probably don't even need to, but I'll point out why. If you and I, all right, if we meet in real life, we're just out in a bar, and you say to me, so Jim, tell me about yourself. And I say, well, I'm a lawyer, I'm divorced, I have my kids, they live with their mom. Every other weekend I have them. You'd go, oh, divorced dad, nice guy probably, I'm a woman.
You don't have those kids.
I have 2 kids. They live with their dad. I see them every week. What the fuck is wrong with her?
Social
drugs,
pariah.
mental health. And by the way,
Scarlet letter.
go on Instagram, #MomLife. Like, believe me, like I've represented some co-parents of celebrities that like these people are opioided out of their minds. But when it's time to take that kid out like a Birkin bag, they bring them out and they're like, I'm a mom. And then they're like back to, all right, take this fucking kid away, and they could care less. But it's optics, Whereas for a man, if you go, the kids live with their mom, people go, oh yeah, well of course the kids live with their mom. So that's where I think that comes from. But the truth is, like, men get custody all the time. The maternal presumption was eradicated years ago. There used to be something called what was called the tender years doctrine, which was if a child was under the age of 7,
you let the mom
mom automatically got custody unless you could show she was an unfit mother. That was eradicated in the 1980s. But some of the judges have been around since then, so they remember that. And judges are human. Like, judges are people, so they have the same bias as anybody else has. So sometimes the judge is a divorced dad who's like, dads are just as good as moms. What the fuck? Sometimes they're a pissed off ex-wife of somebody, and they're like, fuck that guy, because they're taking out. These are humans.
All right, guys, we're gonna take a break for a second. I got some absolutely incredible news. Okay. All you Call of Duty Warzone fans out there, the wait is finally over. No,
you're not going to get laid. Verdansk is back on April 3rd, okay? The iconic map you all know and the love is returning to Call of Duty Warzone. Experience all the chaos and relive the thrill that you've been missing. It's the return of the map that started it all with iconic POIs like Superstore, Hospital, Prison, and more. Whether you're an OG Call of Duty Warzone fan or dropping in for the first time, Verdansk is ready to bring you the action. Gather your squad and get ready for intense battles and iconic landmarks. Experience new gameplay updates and the return of Verdansk era weaponry. This is the moment you've been waiting for and it's going to be epic. Download Call of Duty Warzone for free and drop in a Verdansk on April 3rd. That's www.callofduty.com/warzone/flagrant. It's rated M for mature. Let's get back to the show. All right, guys, let's take a break for a second. It's something I've been talking about a lot, not only on this pod, on other pods as well, but it is the importance of understanding how to invest in the market. And by invest in the market, I mean doing it long term, not this gambling thing that a lot of people are doing online right now, trying to predict stocks or trying to beat hedge funds that have, billions of dollars of fiber optic cables around the world so they can get a millisecond advantage on a trade over you. But what you can do is invest in American industry, and you can invest in these businesses, and over a long period of time, you can make some incredible gains, and you can change your future, your parents' future, or your kids' future. Acorns is a financial wellness app that helps you take control of your money with simple tools that make it easy to start saving and investing in your future. You don't need to be an expert, okay? Acorns will recommend a diversified portfolio that matches you and your money goals. You don't need to be rich. Acorns lets you get started with the spare money you've got right now. Even if all you've got is spare change, you can literally create an Acorn account and start investing in just 5 minutes. Acorns will give you small, simple steps to get you and your money on track, okay? Sign up now and join the over 14 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $25 billion with Acorns. Plus, Acorns will boost your new account with a $20 bonus investment. The offer is available at acorns.com/flagrant. That is acorns.com/flagrant, FLAGRANT, to get your $20 bonus investment today. Also, this is a paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns. Tier 2 compensation provided. Investing involves risk. Acorn Advisors, LLC, and SEC registered investment advisor. View important disclosure at acorns.com/flagrant. Let's get back to the show. Have you ever suggested that a client change their gender to have some sort of advantage at divorce?
No, I represented, actually, I was one of the first people to represent a trans woman in a custody proceeding about 20 years ago. And
were they divorcing themselves?
No, they were. This was actually a really amazing story. This was like the most manly man I'd ever known. Like he was like he was jacked. He was like a big dude.
Yeah.
And I knew him because he'd actually done work on my house. And I remember thinking, because I was married at the time, I remember thinking my ex-wife secretly wanted to fuck him. Because he was like this big dude, work boots, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So one day he calls me up and
he loves renovation.
He calls me up.
He's an interior decorator, but it doesn't matter.
This is a fixer-upper.
He made some significant changes. He calls me up one day, he says, "Can I come in and talk to you?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And I knew he was married and he had 2 very young kids. So he comes in, I'm like, oh shit, he's probably having marital problems. Comes into my office, I said, "What's going on?" He says, "Look, I think we're splitting up." And I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry to hear it." I said, "What's going on?" And he goes, "Well, I've decided I want to live my life as a woman." I was like, wait, excuse me?
Yeah.
Like, this is 20 years ago. Like, this is not part of like the cadence, this wasn't a thing. And this was not the dude you would think. Like, there was nothing feminine about this guy. Like, I was way more feminine than this guy. And he was like, yeah, I've always felt this way. And And he did. Sure enough, he transitioned pretty quickly. And like many people who transition, initially he looked like a guy wearing a wig, and like he looked like a dude who was, he'd started hormones. And when we went to court, the judge actually issued a temporary decision saying that he was allowed to see his kids as long as he dressed like a man when he saw his kids. Now, the judge did that now, they'd be thrown off the bench and possibly jailed for a hate crime. But back then, that was considered a perfectly acceptable resolution. Funny PS to that story, by the way. 10 years later, I'm walking into the courthouse and I'm standing there talking to one of my colleagues, and I look off to the far left and I see a very attractive woman staring at me. And I'm thinking like, you still got it, Sexton. Look at this, it's the tie. and she's just smiling at me. So I'm like, do I know her? This is weird. So I finish this conversation. I kind of do the peacocking thing where I'm like, all right, man, catch you later. And I'm like, I'm gonna walk past her. So I walk up, very cute. I said, hey, how you doing? And she goes, good, how you doing? I go, good. She goes, you don't remember me? And I said, I'm sorry, I don't. I would think I would. And she goes, it's me, Amy. And I was like, Amy? And she goes, Andy? And I went, holy shit! It was that person. It was that person with 10 years of hormones and a bunch of other things.
Being hot as both genders seems unfair.
It really does. It really, and by the way, like,
allowed,
could do great home renovations. That's fucked up.
Also, if you transition, you should introduce yourself again.
Yeah.
You should lead with that. Be like, hey, by the way, I've done some updates.
I've done a little work.
She was fishing for compliments about how good she was.
If you did
She's
recognize
fully a woman
her,
at this point.
if you did recognize her, you did a bad job.
I guess so. But it just felt like, you know, I did feel a little deflated because I was like, oh, I got this hot shit checking me out. And then I'm like, oh no, okay, it's not for the reasons I thought.
Former client, you can't.
No, but
You
then
can
after
still
we
get
slept
behind
together, it was fine. No,
What's the weirdest way you've gotten paid?
a motorcycle.
So
I was given a motorcycle once. I had a client who said, you know, he used to like fix up bikes, and I used to ride at the time, and he said, you know, I'm gonna pay you. I just got to sell this bike that I just fixed up.
Like,
and I was
I'll
like,
take
oh,
the
what bike is it? And he showed me, and I was like, I'll just take the bike.
What about
So-
cash? Like just straight
People
cash?
try to pay me in cash all the time.
And you say no?
I'll accept cash, but I do tell them like there's rules about how we take cash, and then we have to report it if it's over $10,000. But I've had people who come in with like $300,000 in cash, and they're like, can I just pay my bill with this? And when you say to them, yes, but I have to then report to the bank where I got it,
Then
then
they
suddenly they're like, no problem, I'll bring you a check, you know, instead.
Okay, so you're by the book when it comes to payment.
You have to be as a lawyer. I mean,
A lot of lawyers are Wild West with that shit.
you know,
I don't think he's gonna say that.
He's almost retired. He said, let it go.
Not lawyers
He's banging
who-
trees outside of town.
No, we went to a hotel. I have some class here. I'm a cheap date. No, I feel like a lot of lawyers. What's interesting is if you read the disciplinary opinions for lawyers, it's really funny because they fuck up lawyers and disbar lawyers for financial stuff really fast. Almost like you read they publish these decisions. It's like, it runs chills through all of us. But you'll read it and they're like, this lawyer had sex with 3 of his clients. He, you know, had a serious cocaine problem, and he told 3 of his clients that cases were resolved when in fact they weren't. You know, suspended for 2 weeks from the practice of law. And then they're like, this guy did not report $23 that he received in cash, disbarred. And you're like, fuck! Like, the money thing is the biggest thing. So lawyers who play it fast and loose with that stuff, like, you're not going to be around long.
Have you ever hooked up with any clients?
No. And I have to tell you.
Have they thrown it at you?
No, for real.
You never circled back after you got the good divorce, got paid, and I was like, yeah, we can spend his money together.
I will tell you why. Because I'm trying to figure out how to say this without offending any of my existing clients. The truth is that if you represent a woman in her divorce, you will never fucking want to date her. Like, you see the worst of this person.
Wow.
Like, you know, there's a rule.
Good lie.
There's a rule.
I know it is.
That's a good lie.
He's a good lawyer. I almost believe that.
There's a rule in New York. There's a rule in New York State. Matrimonial lawyers are not. We're the only lawyers that are not allowed to have sex with our clients. It's a rule. Like, if you do a real estate closing for someone, you can fuck them. But if you're a divorce lawyer, a domestic relations lawyer, you cannot have sex with your client for 6 months after the representation's concluded.
You should have said that. You should have said it's illegal.
Yeah.
No, we're saying do circle the block 7 months in.
But I'm telling you something. Whoever wrote that rule was not a divorce lawyer, because you don't even want to fucking talk to these people, much less fuck them. Some of these women too, they have a hero thing they've put on you that is so unhealthy.
It's the first time you start to sweat all podcast.
Can we take a break? I gotta call my lawyer.
Okay, so we know you've never fucked a client over, but hypothetically speaking, like if you ever were to circle the block 7 months later, 8 months later, and like now that girl has tons of money that you won for her, and she's like really grateful. What would that be like hypothetically? What is that head like? When you just, hypothetically speaking, like when you just got her $100 million.
I mean, look, it'd probably be
just
fantastic.
smiling, thinking about
it'd be a
it.
lot of money.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
listen, it's not, you know, I'm not.
Just in her
she's got enough money
ex-husband's
to
house.
do better than me at that point.
No,
you know?
but she's really grateful.
Yeah, I mean, look, they do. What I'll tell you is, your female clients fall in love with you.
They do.
But it's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
you that they're in love with. You're their hero in this situation.
Of course, yeah.
And so you have to have the presence of mind. Like it's like when you're a college professor. Like of course you got 20-something-year-old girls who are like coming to your office hours, like they're into you. Of course, there's a part of your brain that goes, "Oh my God, are you kidding me? This is fucking." But the truth is, they think you know shit you don't know. They think that you're this genius person. You're just a fucking person. Like, so I really don't, like, that's not, they're not in love with you.
I think like 20 of them you fucked. I think bare minimum.
Yeah, what?
In 2 decades. In 2 decades.
Bro,
You're at a bar, you're drinking.
Jitsu tatted up.
I know, bro. Like, come on. You're a husband's worst nightmare.
I'm pleading the fifth. I know some things.
Well, here's what I'll tell you.
I know
It
a
upsets-
court clerk in Manhattan Family Court. She knows some stories about you.
We do research on this podcast. We don't fuck around.
I mean, that's really, wow, that was, you launched that one. You know, look.
That's how you get 50% off. It's never pro bono, but that's how you get 50% off your fee.
I'm gonna give you my card. Yeah. If you ever need anything.
But they should.
Come over. It's lovely.
But they should. If it's like a horrible divorce and you free this woman from this oppressive man, and then you take the majority of money, give it to him, and the house and all this other stuff, and she can't just, you know.
But you got it in your head too. I mean, see, like in your head, there's like these super hot young women I'm representing who like now have $100 million and want to fuck me.
Yeah.
It's really
We're
like,
not thinking about the money.
it's mostly like women in like their 50s with like, they all got that New York, you know, surprise cosmetic surgery look.
The old
and like, this is not, like, I could do better than that.
What
I
about
think.
somebody's
Like,
second
I don't-
wife?
You know?
Like one of
somebody's
these-
second
Oh,
wife.
second
there's
wife.
usually a prenup. If there's a prenup,
they lock
it's
them
not
in.
as, they're smart enough to lock them in. I say to the 3 fucking guys who are married and don't have prenups.
Yeah, none of us. Well, he's not married yet.
Yeah.
Should he get a
There's
prenup?
still hope for you.
Should he get a prenup?
Of course he should have a all fucking 3, all of you should have a prenup.
Yeah, but it's no
Why?
fun.
What do you mean? Why? And
Don't you
it's
wanna-
no fun.
Don't
What
you
the
like the
fuck are you
risk of it?
talking about?
Like every argument that you get in with your wife, you're like, man, half my shit at the end of this argument. Like, isn't that
for you.
exciting?
That's
Like,
the-
don't you want to live
wow,
on the edge?
weird definition
I'm
of
Alex
excitement.
Honnold. I'm climbing the
Yeah.
side of the cliff.
That's
There's
how
no
you
ropes.
feel. Wow.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
I want
wow.
ropes.
I honestly do feel like if we get divorced, you take half the shit. Do I think I can't make more money? Like, go away. I'm paying you to go away.
Yeah.
Here's half my shit. Shut up.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go make more money, and then we're done.
Would it be even cooler though?
He
If
has to
keeping
justify
all
it to
that
himself
fucking
now.
money.
No,
and being
Andrew's
with
whole
the
goal is to have her make more money than me anyway. Who cares?
Yeah.
Period.
I mean, look, what I'll tell you is, I mean, first of all, I don't think anybody wants their marriage to continue, their spouse to stay in the marriage because they don't want to give up half their shit. That's like a bad incentive, right? Like you want someone to stay married to you because they want to be married to you, because they think you add value to their life, that they enjoy your company, that more often than not, they're glad they're with you, whatever. Any number of justifications.
Yeah.
But to say, well, I'm with him because I don't want to have to give away half
That's
my
what Alex.
shit.
He's got broke boy
That's
mentality.
A terrible, right?
He's got
It's a
broke boy
terrible
mentality.
reason.
He's like a child.
We gotta
He's like a
talk
big
about
child.
this. Yeah, we gotta get this out.
So if I were to get a prenup, what should I include in it?
I think the easiest prenup is the one that I would encourage most people to have, which is, I call it the yours, mine, and ours. If it's in your name, asset or liability, you keep it. If it's in her name, asset or liability, she keeps it. If it's in joint names, you split it 50-50. That's it, clean. Here's what I'll tell you. Everybody, all 3 of you have a prenup. The government wrote it. The state legislature wrote your fucking prenup. And by the way, like, you think that's a good idea? Like, you think, you ever been to the DMV?
Yeah.
You ever walk into the DMV and go, these people should be in charge of everything. Like, they're great at it. This is really good.
But
the reality is like the government is the worst fucking people to write your
To
prenup.
whom though? To whom? Worse to whom? To my wife or to me?
To you?
Both of you. Both of you. The process.
we
You've
both
signed
get
up. You've signed up for a rule set that
Yeah,
you don't even know.
I don't know.
Like
Please
you
tell
bought,
us.
you bought a house, right? You bought a house. You had to sign a HUD 1, a lead paint disclosure. You got all this fucking information about the loan. You got married. You didn't get a fucking pamphlet.
Yeah.
You just did the most legally significant thing you're going to do in your whole life other than die.
Yeah.
And you have no fucking clue what happened. You have no, the first time
It's
you
called
learned
big
the rules-
dick energy. That's what it's called. That's what it's called. Big dick.
I agree.
I ain't no pussy ass shit. Oh, let me look at the documents. I didn't even know what the house you were talking about.
I'm gonna just take it.
More lead paint.
Translate that to go into
More
Vegas
lead
and
paint.
being like, I'm betting it all on black. How much? I don't know all of it. Go. Like,
I would do
that's
that.
fucking crazy.
I have
No,
and
no,
have
it's
lost quite a few Bitcoin. So
It is crazy.
It is what it's.
No,
it is what
crazy. It is crazy. 100%.
Because my attitude is, look, all kidding aside, every marriage has a prenup. It's either one that's written by the government or it's written by the two people that like each other theoretically more than the other 8 billion other options, right?
Right.
So who is better to come up with a rule set than those two people? And that's all the prenup is. A prenup is just saying, look, you know, there's going to come a time, like if you're getting married, it's smart to say to your spouse, when you're getting along still,
Yeah.
babe, we're gonna get in a fight at some point. I promise. It's probably gonna be my fault. I'm gonna say some dumb shit. I say dumb shit. It happens.
Yeah.
When we get in that fight, what should that look like? Do you need a minute? Should I give you some space? Like, if I force you to talk about it, is it gonna turn into a whole thing? Or do we need to take care of this now because you don't want to go to bed angry? Like, I want to know. Because the worst time to learn how to fight is when you're in a fucking fight. Like, that's the worst time to learn how to do a fight.
Yeah.
So that's all the prenup is. A prenup is saying, look, we're getting along right now. We have an abundance of goodwill between the two of us. If, God forbid, in the highly unlikely 56 fucking percent, the highly unlikely chance that we would get divorced, what would that look like? And by the way, there's a way to say it that I think has a tremendous amount of big dick energy, which is to say, you know what? You're my woman. I want you to feel safe.
Yeah, like
you can't feel loved unless you feel safe. And the way I want you to feel safe, the way I want you to feel safe is I want you to feel safe from everyone, including me. So what is
dumb do you think our
owe
wives
each other? Well, I mean, they married you.
She's like, I got this, simp.
Yeah. Actual question, yours, mine, and ours. How does that go once you're married? Everything is just going to go ours, right? You're going to buy the house, it's going to be our name. You're going to buy the cars, it's going to be our name.
Conversation you got to have. Like, look, you know this as a married man. If you can't have difficult conversations with your spouse, don't get fucking married. Like part of being married is having hard conversations, talking about tough stuff.
Personally,
Yeah.
let's say you and your wife are both working. Wife decides to not work to raise the child.
Sure. Common.
And maybe I'm telling you how I feel without asking you how you feel.
okay.
But like, there's a part of me that goes, okay, well, first of all, anything, I don't have a prenup, obviously, so anything that we own is both of ours. But like, I think that if she's going to make that sacrifice and that decision, I think she's entitled to half of everything.
Who would disagree with
Okay, good, because I think there's sometimes people...
Totally fair.
Okay, and I think sometimes people are like, well, if you're making the money, that's all you. It's like,
Right.
yeah, but you're able to do that because somebody's looking after the child.
Right.
Now, there's circumstances, like your guys' circumstances, they don't have a kid yet, right? So like he's making money and,
Right.
you know, your wife could be making money. So he might have an argument to go, well, I'm going to keep all of this because you could be working.
Yeah.
But I do think once you add children into the mix, there's a very different.
But I totally agree, and I think any reasonable person would. But just to push back on that thought a little bit.
Yep.
What I would say to you is, okay, but there's got to be a stop loss somewhere in there, right? Like,
What does that mean?
there's got to be some sense of like, what is that obligation? Because look, at the end of the day, we all owe each other things when we make decisions like this, right?
You're saying at a
like
certain
in some
number.
ways,
Yeah.
in some ways, you wouldn't have the success you have if it wasn't for your wife.
Absolutely.
She supported you. She's
Sure.
helped build. Okay, absolutely.
Yeah.
Your wife wouldn't be the person she is if it wasn't for her mother.
Sure.
So what do you owe her mother? How much?
I think at least half.
Okay. Her mother wouldn't be the person she was if it wasn't for her mother.
She
so how
needs
much
half
do we
to.
owe grandma?
She needs half
Okay,
to.
so the math on this gets a little fuzzy.
They all need half.
So the reality is
Everybody.
Look, I think fundamentally,
Yeah, they need half of her
value is an important thing. You know, I just watched your special, you know, and I got a huge kick out, especially as a divorce lawyer, the shit we laugh at. But when you said the thing about, you know, like
We made a baby.
We made a baby, and you're like, oh, just like we made this money, like it's our money. Like, okay, look, at the end of the day, we know you earn more than her, right? Okay, so why do we have to be afraid to say that out loud? Like, marriage is an economy.
Yeah.
That's not a dirty word. An economy is We're exchanging value.
Yeah.
We're giving and receiving. And an economy does not require that everyone gives and receives the exact same fucking thing.
Right.
You can say, like Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, without Steve Wozniak, Steve Jobs would have a lot of cool ideas he couldn't do shit with.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak would be a dude in his garage making shit but have no vision. So together they brought something to fruition. Same thing with the marriage.
There's no question.
Does she get half? Does that really make sense? Half of everything?
So there's no question of whether what you're saying makes sense. I think the difficult emotional battle, which you've probably done thousands of times, is putting a dollar value on what somebody brings to the table in a marriage. Like, what is the dollar value you're worth for raising our kid?
Yes.
That's a really difficult thing
It feels
to do.
icky to
feels
say
it feels icky.
But it only feels icky for reasons that I think we could fix as a culture, and that is that why can't we be like, I'm a fan of honesty.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of just say the quiet part out loud.
Yeah.
Like, you give me, like, because here's the problem. Here's the problem with modern marriage from a man's perspective, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Most of the marriages I know, okay, the man provides financially. He protects, right? He, he's also there to be part of the family dynamic, taking care of kids, doing the things that he can do. What does the woman bring? She brings love, affection, a little bit of sweetness at the end of the day, sex. She brings, taking care of kids. Okay, if you get divorced, every single thing on that side of the man equation, he can be compelled to do by the power of the state, and if he fails to do it, they can put him in jail. Nothing on that other side, the female side, is enforceable at law. The court cannot order her to be nice to you, to fuck you, to be a wonderful mother to your children. She can't. They can't force that. So when you have a contract where only one side of it is enforceable with the power of the state and the other side is not, my attitude is, why don't we then just have an honest conversation about what we could both be afraid of and what value we want to attribute
But the court can't force you to protect your wife, and the court can't force you to make money
economically,
for your
they
family.
can force you to. They can force you to protect somebody. You can, like, I've had cases where the court says, okay, this person needs a security detail. If it's a celebrity, they say these kids are going to need security for when they go to school, things like that.
But the average person, like, can the court say you have to work to a dad?
Well, what the courts say is Lincoln freed the slaves. Like, if you're a you notice I didn't look over.
Appreciate it.
Like, I like this fucking guy. Just jumps right in on that. He's like, nod to Lincoln, by the way. Just a lot of big ups.
What does that mean? What does that mean?
What I'm saying,
The dude in court.
What is it?
take a right on racist slavery.
It's the dude in court.
Yeah, you said her pussy was like a bowl of oatmeal.
Yeah.
You said she's thicker than her.
Thicker than a bowl of oatmeal.
So if your financial status at the moment you were getting divorced determined what your obligations were, everybody quit their fucking job the minute they were getting divorced.
Right.
So what the courts say is, like, if you're a brain surgeon who now I'm getting divorced, I decided I want to be a fucking yoga teacher.
Right.
The court goes, look, Lincoln freed the slaves. We can't make you be a brain surgeon. You're just going to be you're going to be a yoga teacher who has the financial obligations of a brain surgeon.
Oh, wow.
So they impute an income to you.
Oh, really?
And they'll say, whatever you do for a living, it's fine. We can't force you to work, but we can give you financial obligations commensurate with your earning capacity, even if you're not earning at that capacity.
Wow.
Which is actually really
That's
fucked up sometimes. Yeah. Like, I had a client once who was an air traffic controller. And if you know anything about air traffic controllers, like, you can have a high school education, be an air traffic controller, make like $300-400 grand a year.
Wow.
Like, you can do really, really well. Well, this guy, his mother passed away. He was very close with her. He had a lot of anxiety and a lot of depression from it, and he had to go on medication, psychiatric medication, to, like, sort of deal with it. You're not allowed to be on benzodiazepines or certain psychiatric medications while you're in air traffic control, so he was terminated from his position. The next best job this guy could get, he made about $50,000 a year. But the court was like, no.
You still got to.
Your earning capacity is $350,000 a year. That's what you made. And we were like, Judge, what job can this guy get where he's going to make that amount of money? So it can sometimes, this is how guys end up in jail for not paying
So what'd he
support.
do?
It's not their fault.
So what'd he do?
He suffered, basically, yeah. I mean, he had a very unfair child support award placed against him. He ended up in jail a couple of times. It was a really...
Because he was, like, selling drugs or something to make the money?
No, he just was not
he didn't pay his support. It's illegal to not pay child support. You can be put in jail.
But you can't go back for a readjustment if you have.
We did after a certain amount of time, and then it was granted. Yeah,
Oh,
like it was
so-
the judge sort of didn't buy that this was not done intentionally. Like we joke in our industry that we call it sudden income deficiency syndrome. That it hits like 9 out of 10 divorcing men. Like guys are doing really great, and then all of a sudden they're getting divorced, and they're like, "But this year's going to be bad. I'm not going to do well this year." Like you work for Goldman Sachs, and they're like, "Yeah, but we're having a bad year." So it happens a lot that judges tend to look at people and go, something tells me that if you're saying you're suddenly not doing well financially and it happens to be when you're getting divorced, there might be it's not a coincidence.
So I hear about these guys who don't pay child support. You see that anecdotally, whatever. But then the saying I always hear is, well, courts are not in the collections business. So how do some guys seemingly not really pay, kind of be unfair, and then some guys, well-intentioned, end up in jail?
So the courts, it depends on how bold the judge is. I mean, what I'll tell you is I'll give you some free legal advice. If you ever have a child support obligation against you, which I hope you never do, and you have to pay it, and you don't have the money to pay it, like if you're supposed to give her $2,000 a month, and you don't have $2,000, don't give her $1,000. Give her $1,226.37. Because then when we get in front of the judge, we can say, "Judge, I had $1,000. I borrowed $200 from my cousin. I found $32 under the mats of my car. This is everything I have." Because what people do is, if you gave 1,000, why didn't you give 1,001? If you gave 1,500, like a round number, it just looks like you're full of shit. So, but yeah, I mean, look, we courts don't always. Again, because judges are human. There are some judges, they will put you right the fuck in jail. I've had clients let off in orange, where the judge says, "Look, you got a week to pay this child support, and if you don't, bring a toothbrush when you come back to court, because I'm putting you away." And they'll lock guys up. They have what's called weekend jail, where on Friday after work, you check in and you stay in jail until Monday morning.
And then
then
you
Monday
get to work during.
so you can work and pay your child support. Yeah.
Why does alimony exist?
That's a great question.
I get child support. I get
Splitting of assets.
I get
that.
You ever want to?
Real quick.
Want to take a feminism out of a woman?
Yeah.
Make her pay alimony.
Dude, I think one of the coolest things in the White Lotus episode, they have these 3 different girls that make up this girl group. It's phenomenal, and each is an archetype of a woman at their own age. But one of them is paying child support or alimony. But it is really interesting to see her reaction to it and how her friends react.
They hate it.
Yes. Okay, so can you explain, 1, what is alimony? And 2, what is like the steelman argument for it? Like, give me the, not like, oh, this sucks, but what is the best case scenario? And why is it important?
Alimony or spousal support or spousal maintenance, every state calls it something different, is a payment that's made from one former spouse to another. And it's intended to either rehabilitate their earning capacity so that they can kind of get on their feet, or it's to roughly approximate the marital lifestyle for a certain period of time. So it's very rarely what we call non-durational, meaning like you broke it, you bought it forever, you owe her the marital lifestyle. There was a time where that was the way it was done, but it hasn't been that way for many, many years now.
So just so I can clarify to anybody who's listening, essentially there's this idea where if you're married and you have a certain lifestyle.
Right. And there's a wide disparity in your incomes.
And there's a wide disparity in your potential income because the wife might not even be working.
Correct.
It is up to the husband or the wife, whoever is the breadwinner, to maintain that lifestyle outside of the marriage.
Or some approximation of it for some period of time.
Got it.
So the steelman argument for it is the following. There are economic decisions you make during your marriage, and you make them as a couple, right? So it is very difficult for everybody to be Beyonce. Somebody's got to be Destiny's Child.
Absolutely.
You can't all be the, Lionel Richie. Somebody's got to be the Commodores.
Sure.
So what you do is you say, okay, look, you're the star right now. I'm going to stand back. I'm going to take care of home. I'm going to do my thing. In the law, we call it diminished lifetime earning capacity, which basically means if a woman takes her late 20s or her 30s off from the workforce, because that's when you have kids. You have 100%. Kids in your 30s, kids in your 40s.
Very hard for her to get back into the workforce.
And when she gets back into the workforce, she's behind in the race.
So now she's
like if you join the New York City Marathon halfway through, you're not going to finish with everybody else, no matter how fucking fast you
just clarifying, behind at the race means like when she was 20, she would be in this beginner position. I forget what that's called, like early entry position.
Right.
At 40, she should be like a VP or something.
So,
because she hasn't worked for 2 decades, she has to go back at that beginning
So
position.
in the law, we call that diminished lifetime earning capacity.
And because it's a beginning position, the earning potential is very small.
Is lower, and it'll never catch up, because by the time she reaches the age she would have been at 40, she's 60, so she's closer to retirement. So it's lost. So what you're doing is you're sort of saying, okay, we're going to compensate for that. That's the argument for it.
Now, I actually think that there's a lot of compassion, empathy in that idea. I like that's the best steel man I've heard for it. It makes a lot of sense. Here's the question.
I don't think most people would disagree with that.
No. Here's the other question I have. There are certain circumstances where there is a divorce, there's a payment and splitting of assets to the tune of like tens of millions of dollars. And on top of that, an alimony payment. Isn't there a way where it could be calculated that the assets themselves would assume that alimony payment?
So what's really interesting is
that a fair...
Without realizing it, you've actually just joined the legislative committee of the New York State Bar Association, because a few years ago, the domestic relations law was actually modified to reflect exactly that.
Okay, I think
where
that's
they
more
said
fair.
what they call it is the income creating capacity of assets received in equitable distribution. And now it is one of the factors. When I started my career 25 years ago, that wasn't a factor. And then a lot of lawyers, myself included, were like, wait, she's getting $20 million.
Why does she also
put it in treasuries at 5%?
Done.
She's got an income stream. So the courts and the legislature caught up, and now they say, if you're getting, like I just did a divorce where there was an $800 million marital estate.
Wow.
Jesus.
She actually had the audacity to ask for alimony. And the judge looked at it and went, listen, you're getting $400 million worth of assets. You're going to be all right. You know, like we're not, that can kick off income if you want it to.
So okay, I'm glad that they're making these adjustments. And I think a lot of times you have to put in this legislation because you have to protect women, especially at a time where like they weren't able to work. Like a lot of these laws, I imagine, are put in times where like women aren't even part of the workforce.
That's when a lot of them came about, and then the law is very slow to change, because the way that our law works is it's sort of a living thing that modifies as times and standards change.
As it should, but there is bureaucracy you have to go through, and that's always going to be
right. And by the way, to bring it back to where we started here, that's why I'm a fan of prenups.
Yes.
Because if you're a fair person and your soon-to-be spouse is a fair person, couldn't you have this conversation?
So this is really interesting. And just to caveat it, like, we all understand the emotional reaction to a prenup and this idea of like the impending doom of your marriage before it even starts. So we get that. But it is interesting to attack the prenup, maybe attack is the wrong word, but approach the prenup with this idea that current legislation might not reflect what both parties feel is fair in a relationship, no matter how it goes. And you can, if you love some of the current legislation, put that into the prenup. If you don't, you 100%. Can remove it. So I think that's an interesting argument for it.
That's to me the best argument for it, because here's the other problem. Is there another contract that you've ever heard of that they can change the terms of the contract without even fucking telling you?
That's interesting.
Like, imagine if you bought or leased a car.
This is really interesting.
And they said, oh, by the way, the state just decided we're going to change how the interest rate works and when you have to make the payments. And you're not allowed to go, oh, well, then I'd like to opt out and return the car. And they go, oh, no, you can't do that. Sorry. Like, so there's rules. There's a prenup that was written for all three of your marriages
by the government
that can be changed unilaterally by people other than you and your wife and affect you forever. So to me, my attitude is, listen, you could do a prenup one way and then 3 years later do an addendum and modify it. Like, you can make it a living document, just like you make your will. You make your will at one point, you make it again 5 years later, you change it frequently.
I think the perception of it is a person with a lot of assets trying to make sure that the person that they're going to spend the rest of their life with never gets those assets in the event that the marriage doesn't work out, which is the goal of a lot of prenups.
And by the way, not an unfair concept. Like, let's
you're bringing 100 million.
Let's go to an alternate reality.
Actually, wait a minute, I got to pee real quick, because the next thing I do want to talk to you about is like, I think we're getting there. Like, what happens with these like huge estates, these people that have like generational wealth? Anyway, can we take like 2 minute break? Listen, very important that we discuss March Madness. There's nothing
that is more important to the people in this podcast than amateur sports.
Yes.
We love amateur sports. We love amateur football. We love amateur basketball. Right now,
paying crazy money now. So is even
are they even amateur?
Yeah.
So they're just shittier pros.
Yes.
Yeah.
We love shittier pros.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have enough time to watch every NBA game that I want to watch, but I make sure I make time to watch shittier pros.
Most of whom, watch guys who will probably never make it to the NBA.
Never
Let's
make
do
it.
that.
And if they do, they'll be huge disappointments.
Yeah.
There's maybe one or two guys that will have a career
Yeah.
in this entire draft. So yeah, but you know, it's March Madness. Doesn't feel very mad. Right? Does it feel like
I don't know.
so
Have there
mad?
been crazy upsets yet?
Yeah, probably.
St. John's is the only one.
That team lost to that team or whatever.
Oh, I heard about that. I didn't hear about that.
And then everybody, and then all the adults pretended like they cared. Do you remember that? Oh, my bracket's busted.
Yo.
My bracket's so busted.
No sport has had as much done for it by March Madness with brackets. Like, it's saved.
Yeah.
This is the only reason anybody gives a fuck, because their office is going to give you free lunch if you win. And that's why you care.
Yeah, you're all working at Lumen.
Yeah.
I think this was fantasy sports before fantasy. In that, like, remember, I don't know, because obviously everybody gambled on whatever the fuck they wanted to gamble on back in the day, but like, you rooted for your team. When we were growing up, I rooted for the Knicks.
Yes.
I rooted for the Giants or the Jets, whoever was fucking worse. I rooted for the Yankees. And then fantasy comes around, you start rooting for like individual players because it reflects on your team.
Yeah.
And I think that the bracket was the closest that we came to that. Most of us did not go to the colleges that are playing in the tournament, right? My school, I think we made it the year before I went there. I don't even know if we've made it since.
Yeah.
Right. So you end up having this like almost fantasy-esque relationship with the bracket.
Yeah.
So we pretend that we care about amateur athletics, which we do not.
New York people also have a weird relationship with college sports in general, which I don't get, because so many New Yorkers will go to state schools and then should have some patriotism.
Because there's no good state school like at athletics in New York.
But if you go to
No,
Ole
but
Miss from New York,
I
you should
understand what
still
you're
like
saying.
Ole Miss.
A lot of New Yorkers end up going to Michigan or Wisconsin if they can't get into Ivy
And they'll
League
still be
schools.
like, eh.
Yeah. So like if there's a New Yorker that's at Michigan or Wisconsin, I just want you all to know that was his last choice. And I'm going to be honest. They thought they were better than that. They applied to Cornell. They applied to Brown. They probably didn't think they were smart enough to get into like Harvard or Princeton, but they applied to the lower Ivies. They didn't get in. And they're like, my safety school will be, I will make the pilgrimage with the rest of the New York Jews to Wisconsin or Michigan.
They have a good business school. They have a good
Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah. So anyway, and then they pretend to like the college, amateur athletics.
And ironically, NYU is a bunch of kids who wanted to get in Ivies and couldn't, so they're at NYU.
Exactly, they're at NYU. But it's actually a good school.
Yeah.
That's the difference. Whereas Michigan and Wisconsin
They just hated their
Michigan's
parents
good,
and wanted to
Wisconsin.
get away from
No.
home.
Yeah.
Say again?
I said they hated their parents. They just wanted to get
They're
away.
like, how did we get
Where's
the
the
fuck away?
furthest?
Why go to an even colder place? Is great. You did it well.
It's-
Go to Santa Barbara, the
Yeah.
polar opposite weather-wise.
Yeah.
Michigan, let's go to a shittier weather state.
No winter, no classes. Like, perfect. You know what I mean? That's what you want in a college experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, it was such a
Good Mexican
joke.
food, finally.
Yeah,
I don't. Do you guys remember a single thing you learned in college?
Maybe one or two.
I don't remember one. I thought about this the other day.
No,
I
it's
remember
in there.
all your
It's
pickup
in
artist
there.
techniques?
I don't remember one thing that I
It's
learned in
there.
college.
No, come on.
I don't remember one. Like I can't remember a single
You know
thing.
all of Gente Fernandez because of college.
Not in college.
Extracurricular.
Yeah, it was, I would have learned that shit here too. You know,
That's a good point.
you think I would have met a Mexican kid here? Then we would have gone and watched some fucking mariachi.
That's a good point.
No,
if they had that class though, the
I'm trying to think. I think I learned some like evolutionary biology stuff.
That's all I remember.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe some Psych 101,
Yeah.
but like, I don't think
Bruh.
you don't learn anything.
The statistics right now, I can't remember.
I can't
single.
remember.
Mean, median, mode, I got
Sine,
you.
cosine,
That
tangent.
That might have been high school. That might have been high school. Yeah.
I don't remember none of that shit. Anyway, the point is, if you want to bet on useless sports, you can bet on college sports.
Hell yeah.
And you can do that with Stake. Stake is the leader in global betting and U.S. social casinos. Bet on top sports and also college and political events, and you use the promo code Flagrant for your welcome bonus. Now, let me just caveat this. Listen, I'm right.
Yeah, well, college sports, there's only one way to make it fun, and that's gambling.
Yeah, can
If
we
you're
just
not gambling,
acknowledge
it
that?
sucks.
Can we just acknowledge that?
Yeah, college
my
basketball,
God.
they're
Hey,
dribbling
but-
off their foot.
Oh, but it's the defense is better. It's more fundamentals. No. You're gambling on it. That's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, that's the only way it's exciting.
Exactly. You don't have to gamble on every single NBA game. If you did, you'd obviously do a mistake, but you don't have to because it's the best of the best. But if I'm going to watch Liberty
Gang.
take on Drake. I need some fucking scratch on it.
Yeah, a 19-year-old athlete putting everything down, trying to get his mom out the hood. I'm putting money on it.
Oh, yeah, shout out to Cooper Flag, man. Anyway, let's get back to the show. There are certain people that are targeted, meaning they come from very wealthy families.
Sure.
Their families might have billions of dollars. And like marriage has been almost like a tool to protect those assets for hundreds of years, maybe in some of these families.
I mean, well, that's what marriage originally was designed culturally for the purposes of maintaining land ownership.
I kind of want to
clans.
like. I actually, after we get into this discussion, I'd really like to know some of the history of marriage, like why it's continued to be around. Like if this is something that didn't have societal utility, I think that we
who were the first people that were like, this is going so great, we should get the government involved?
Yeah.
You know, like
But
that's fucking weird.
It does seem weird that's an interesting thing. Even when my wife were gonna get married, I was like, I really don't care that the government knows about this.
Right.
It's important to me that you and I know about this, and we are committing to one another. And I think for them, I think that the idea that the government knows about it makes it feel more real because of like societal expectations or whatever.
But you know what's an interesting thing I've always found fascinating is if you said to me, you know, Jim, I'm thinking about buying an airplane. If I said, oh, really, why? That's not a rude question.
Yeah.
You would say, oh, you know, I fly a lot and it'd be nice. I want to learn how to do it. Okay. If you're dating a girl for a certain period of time, you say to me, you know, Jim, I'm thinking about getting married. And I go, why?
Yeah.
That's rude. Why is that rude? Like, this is a technology that fails 56% of the fucking time.
Yeah.
And let's say there's another 10, 20% that stay together for the kids or because they don't want to give away half their shit.
Yeah.
Why is it rude to say to someone, you guys are getting along, you're in love, you're having fun.
Yeah.
Why do you want to get the government involved?
Yeah.
Like, why? What? My whole thing is,
Yeah.
what is the problem
Yeah.
to which marriage is a solution? Like, what is the problem to which marriage is like anything else in your life? You could answer that. What is the problem to which this is a solution? It's hard to hold water in my hands, so we need a container for it. What is the problem to which this is a solution? It's nice to be able to talk to people when they're not in the room. Okay, what is the problem to which marriage is a solution? I'm lonely?
No,
marriage doesn't solve that problem.
for women, it's security.
To answer your question, I thought you brought up a really great point when it came to like allocating time with the kids in a divorce, which was like, if a dad has every other weekend, it's kind of looked at like, oh yeah, okay, he's got a job, he's a divorced dad. If a mom is every other weekend, she's looked at like a psychopath, right? So I do think that women that are in long-term relationships but aren't married feel a societal scrutiny.
Sure.
Will he not commit to me? Does he not really love you? Is he trying to protect his money or his assets or something like that? And I think a lot of times that informs their decision to quote unquote get the government involved. It's less about the government. It's more about like, how will society view me as this person's partner? Like, and is it a lack of commitment? Which obviously now, like if we remove the emotion from it, we can unpack and go, yeah, it doesn't change anything in that relationship. And you can literally not get married, but you can sign a contract with some lawyers about how assets can be distributed. Like you can have the government play no part of it.
And if you, by the way, don't even know what role the government plays in that, it's kind of a fiction. And by the way, like, you trust that Mark is married.
Yeah.
Have you checked the fucking paperwork ever?
Exactly. Yeah. No.
Like honestly, like if you ever gone to a wedding, and after at the end gone, lovely ceremony, great pigs in the blanket at the cocktail hour. You just need to see the paperwork.
Yeah.
They go, well, I'm sorry, well, no, the marriage license. I just want to make sure. Like your parents might not be fucking married. But you know what? Did you check the paperwork?
I've never looked.
We know about the nurse outfit.
Yeah.
We don't know about the paperwork.
Yeah, they're so low.
So
You're speaking
by the way,
logically.
have as many fucking weddings as you want, guys.
Yeah.
Like getting married's lots of fun. It's a great party. I'm all for it. I fucking love weddings because I like pigs and blankets.
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, does that mean you actually have to go sign a marriage license, get the government involved? Not necessarily.
Let's real quick. Let's just divide this up. What you're not saying that having a partner that you guys dedicate your lives to each other and grow a family with is bad.
Not only is it not bad, I think it's the best thing in the world.
It's incredibly important.
Yeah, it's the best pair bonds, like relationships, love. Like what is better than love?
Nothing. I guess what happens is I think when people hear the word like, why would you get married? They often assume that you're like, have a few girlfriends or don't commit to one person or it's not going to work out. Right. You're pro relationship. You're pro pro like
I'm pro monogamy.
You're pro monogamy. You're pro family.
I'm pro people building families together. Look, there's a reason why throughout the history of humankind, pair bonds, monogamy, this exists for biological reasons. It exists for social reasons.
Yeah.
But if I saw a correlation between love and marriage, and love being sustained by the fact that you've married, I would be the biggest fan of marriage in the world.
Right.
What I see is the opposite.
But
what I see is people dating and in love who then sign on for a contract that they do not understand at all.
Yes.
And then I think it becomes almost antagonistic to it because our society is considers it so acceptable. Come on, listen, look at every group of women you've ever seen out who are married, okay? And one of them is not married. And the one who's not married is talking about a guy who she just started dating, and they all are, oh my God, he sounds so great, he's so wonderful, it's so great, oh my God, what did he do? Oh, he did that, he's so lovely. And then when they talk about their husbands, oh, he's such a, I mean, you know, and then he comes home and all that is the guy that she's talking about a couple of years down the road. Like marriage becomes very antagonistic to this situation. Says the guy who's been married how many years now?
I don't know.
Like, okay, so the reality is, like, listen, I'm telling you, the previews is always the best part of the movie.
No. What I'm trying to say is, specifically, one, like, when everybody knows that you're married, it's like, you'd have to be a psychopath to walk into a room of your friends and be like, my wife and I did the most amazing thing, and she's the kindest person. That's not what we want to hear about. We want to hear, like you said, like when you, as a divorce attorney, and you walk into a party, you're like, tell me the drama, tell me the craziest thing. So I'm coming in with the funny shit, which is the drama. When you're dating a new person, there's no drama yet. It's like, we went on one date, he beat me. That never happened. So it's just like, oh, what's the sex? What's it like? Is he good? Is blah, blah, blah.
And we miss that euphoria. Not that the love fades, but it shifts from euphoria to a different love.
And by the way, what it shifts to can also be way better than that euphoria.
I think my relationship with my wife has gotten better since.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of people that will tell you that. And by the way, at its best, that's what happens in a relationship, is you give up novelty in exchange for a depth of connection, a person who understands you, a person who, look, this all makes sense to me. Again, the question I have is, how does the government get involved in that? And does the institution of marriage
real quick,
add value to it? Like, I genuinely believe what you are saying about how you feel about your wife. If you had not married her and you hadn't signed that contract, you would still feel that way.
What I could say in your favor is that maybe law hasn't caught up to society. Society has gotten more egalitarian gender roles-wise, equality-wise for men and women. But especially 30, 40, 50 years ago, there wasn't that. So women needed that security. And I think that's still left over. I don't think marriage has no place, but I definitely understand women's need for it more than men because they're still coming from, this equality thing is relatively recent.
My attitude about tradition, because really marriage is a tradition. It's a societal tradition. And there's really two ways to look at tradition, and I think they're both valid, okay? One is, a tradition is something that worked in the past because there's reasons for it, and maybe the people before us knew some things that we haven't figured out yet because we're younger than them in the scheme of things. The other way you can look at tradition is peer pressure exerted by dead people. Okay? That's really what tradition very often is it's peer pressure from dead people. Why are we doing it this way? Because my great-grandmother did it that way. Your great-grandmother didn't have a smartphone. Your great-grandmother did a whole bunch of things differently, some of which, by the way, make as much, if not more sense now, but some of which make no sense anymore. And how have we evolved as a culture to the point where if you said, my wife is my property, she was her father's property, and then he handed her to me in exchange for me giving something to her, and now I own her.
Sounds pretty fire, to be honest.
Sounds pretty fire. But some people would have an issue with it, okay? Yet,
but they're property.
What is a wedding ceremony? Most wedding ceremonies gives away the bride. It's symbolic of things that most women would find terribly offensive.
But because we put all these cultural things around it, it's like, oh yes, buying a woman an engagement ring. Like, how many women have you met that are so feminist that they go, I'm not accepting you giving me some expensive thing as a way of purchasing? Is it there? Fuck that! You could be a Bella Abzug feminist and you would still be like, oh yeah, no, I want a big fucking rocket. It better not be lab made.
Yeah.
You know, like that's how it works.
I mean, I like Christmas presents.
Yeah, sure.
It's the same shit.
Sure.
It doesn't make any
It's
sense.
exact same thing.
But we like nice things, right?
And there's no problem with that.
Yeah, of course. I think.
But I don't then create a whole
No.
fiction as to why this is good for society.
No. I think what we agree on is two people coming together to share love and then potentially raising a family together and not leaving each other to go fuck other people and create other families at the same time.
I think kids is the biggest thing.
Exactly. It is really good and beneficial for society.
I think we can all agree on that.
And let's just use the term marriage for that.
Okay.
If, for example, every marriage required a prenup, meaning you couldn't get married unless you had agreed on the terms of that marriage. Now we've removed the government doing the prenup, which it seems to me is your biggest concern.
Yes.
You love love, you love people coming together, you love them creating families, and it's really important for society. What you don't love are these rules imposed on us that might be antiquated or not favorable for either party.
Well said.
So, you're a marriage libertarian.
Exactly correct.
So what you want to do is, so I think what you're telling me, just because I don't want it to seem like you're anti-marriage, you're pro what we assume marriage is, which is this union, without this antiquated gunk that is then imposed on us if it doesn't go well.
If it doesn't go, what
Exactly,
my attitude is, by the way, and if you want to buy into any of the antiquated gunk, you have every right to.
And you
But
put
I
it in
think
your prenup.
you
Yeah.
And this person who you've picked out of 8 billion other options.
Yes.
You're saying this is my person.
Yeah.
And who is more qualified than the two of you to agree on the rule set?
I think reframing thing, and I'm sure you've done this in every single meeting. I'm more talking to the audience, but like I think us reframing marriage in that way and having like a real cool understanding and fair conversation about what would make us both comfortable in this. And then you learn a lot about each other.
By the way, and that's the point. See,
And
to
that's-
me,
yeah.
that is the point.
Yeah.
Because that's a conversation worth having.
Yeah.
Even if you don't end up doing a prenup.
Yeah.
Having a conversation about, hey, what do we owe each other?
Yeah.
What does this mean to you?
Yeah.
Like, what do you expect of me? Because I
Yeah.
want to meet your expectations.
Yeah.
What do you want from me?
And then you learn a lot about each other through that process, because if some guy is marrying a girl, then they have to do this prenup process because that's part of the marriage. The government basically says this, hey, our rules are kind of fucked up. We're going to give you a baseline. Use some, don't use some, but we recommend you go get an attorney. And maybe there's even like a public office where they can do it. I don't know if that's...
It doesn't even have to be
version.
that complicated.
But so it's basically, so you go do it. And then you can learn a lot. If the guy goes, by the way, in this prenup, I want to make sure that you don't deviate within 10 pounds of your weight right now. You'll learn what's really important to that guy. And then you might go...
don't you want to know that before you marry this fucking guy?
And then you might go,
That's
I
the
don't
time.
want to get
Or
married
if-
to this
or
guy
if
who...
she says to you, well, you know, if you earn less than X number of dollars,
I don't want to be
you
with
have
you.
to... Well, I'd like
I
to
don't
have
want-
that conversation before we've signed up for that contract.
So I think that's like a very fair way of approaching it. But I like this idea that you're not against the union. And I think a lot of times when there's criticism of marriage, people think it's criticism of two people starting a family and loving each other. That's not it. We need that for society.
look, you know,
That's a
together.
good tradition.
Saying I do isn't saying I can. It's saying I'll try.
Right.
At best.
Right.
At best.
Yeah.
You know, like at best, what you say when you say I do is you're saying, I'm making you a promise.
Yeah.
And if you're not fucking 3, you know people break promises, right?
Yeah.
So really what you're saying when you make
yeah.
a promise is, I'm gonna really try.
I'm gonna try my best.
I'm gonna try my best. I'm gonna try my best to love you. I'm gonna try my best to take everything that you bring to this relationship and see it in good faith.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna attribute negative intentions. I'm gonna cheer for you,
Yeah.
and you're gonna cheer for me, and I'm gonna see your blind spots, and when I have to call you out, I'm gonna do it with love, and I'm gonna try to say to you, babe, I think this is gonna hurt you long term, what you're doing right now.
Yeah.
Like, what is more beautiful than that?
No,
Who
it's
would
awesome.
disagree with that?
It's awesome.
But again, like, why not call those terms out in
think-
advance and have that
I
conversation?
think this is a super healthy way of looking at marriage. And if you're telling me right now that the legislation has already changed to adjust some of the antiquated ideas that were there to obviously protect women, but now are no longer needed,
what you're basically saying is the government is going, hey, we got to update the prenup. If the government has a prenup, they're basically going, marriages deserve prenups.
Right. And the government, by the way, is changing it, but they're changing it the way the government changes things, which is way late in the game.
Yeah.
So it's like they don't catch up.
Yeah.
Like there's a reason why the IRS's lawyers and the tax lawyers that get paid millions of dollars, the tax lawyers that get paid millions of dollars are always 4 steps ahead of these fucking guys.
And they're
like
reacting.
the top of the class goes to work for these firms.
Yeah.
Why? Because they have every incentive to do that. So for me, saying, you know what, I trust the government so much that I know they'll change the law to protect me, that's the most naive thing I've ever heard a human being say.
And even if you want to look at the government acting in good faith, they're like, hey, there are these people go, hey, we got a problem. There are these divorced women. They're fucking homeless right now, or they're going back to living with their parents. Like they're struggling to eat. They can't even take care of their kids. So now they're not around their kids. We got to do something to protect that. They overcorrect.
And this is the mistake. Like people come into this and they think prenups were designed for wealthy people only, right? And by the way, there's a reason why. Because look, there's times where a person comes to the marriage, they have a tremendous amount of assets.
I want to talk about that.
And they say, look, I've got a ton of money. You know, if in an alternate universe, you are you now at your level of success. And you meet a lovely young woman and you say, you know what, let's get it, let's do this thing. Do you mean if you get divorced in 3 months, she should get half of everything? That's fucking crazy. That's crazy.
And I think even the government would say that that's not how it goes.
That isn't how it works.
But maybe there was a time where it was.
And there's still very complicated things, which is how guys like me make a lot of money. Because what happens is we have what's called transmutation, which is if you had a separate property asset, meaning something you owned before the marriage, and then you get married and you mix an asset that you earned during the marriage or income earned during the marriage with your premarital money, you turn the separate into marital. So we have what's called the marital presumption, which is basically, so like think of it, I always tell clients, think about it like, you know, your separate property premarital money is like a bowl of water. And marital money is like a drop of red dye. You drop that in, you can't take it back out. The whole thing's pink.
So if you're doing renovations on it, with your marital money, now all of a sudden you're saying the property becomes
it's all marital. Transmuted.
But you could make the argument that by doing those renovations, it increased the value of that property $5 million.
100%. And you know, I get paid a lot of money per hour to make that argument.
Right.
And then the other lawyer gets paid a bunch of money by the hour to say, no, there was no donative intent, there was no consideration.
But the fact that there's even a conversation. So the reality is why are we making money on this?
Why couldn't the two of you in advance just sit down and say, hey, you know what? Let's put aside some, like, let's decide the rule set. If we put it in your name, it's this. If we put it in joint sets, we'll split 50-50. If we use premarital money, we'll do it this way. Have that fucking conversation.
This is great. I love how, like, you obviously you're an amazing communicator and you're very spirited about this, but like the spirit to me seems to come from this place of, guys, this could be so much easier.
And so much better. So much better.
But there is this negative stigma about a prenup because we only think about these people with tons of assets that are doing it to protect it from a gold digger. We don't think about people who are building a life, like in a lot of our circumstances, we don't really have that. I mean, we're doing okay, but we don't have like tons of money. And then once we get married, we start building this amazing life. And that's probably the majority of people that are getting married. The majority of people aren't coming from $300 million. No.
And by the way, like people that don't have as much are the ones who really have to worry about how do we divide it and protect it. Because if you got hundreds of millions of dollars,
give her 20 million.
Like, but if you're in a situation where, like most people, you're kind of basically getting by, well, now you're gonna have 2 electric bills and 2 cable bills and 2 everything. So to me, like, you know, what's so funny is when early in my career...
I'm sorry to cut you here, but it is really interesting to like understand your perspective on this. You're not against the institution. You're like, it could be so much more
simple. It just could be better.
And you've gone through so many where you're like, we're still bickering over this because you guys didn't make this very easy decision early on.
And I just don't think it makes it unromantic. Like we all know
how do you
life
that
ends.
Yeah, how would you?
Does that mean life's not, like, did you ever go like, well, I'm going to die someday, so I might as well just die now? Like, no, like the beauty is going through the process. Like you're watching a movie and someone says, oh, the movie's going to end. You don't go, well, fuck it, I'm not even going to watch it. Like, no, the beauty is to watch the movie and know that this is a temporary thing. Look, every marriage ends.
Yeah.
It ends in death
or in divorce.
Yeah.
Your marriage will end, I promise. I hope it ends in death. That's a weird thing to say to a person. I hope your marriage ends in death. But I do. I hope that's how your marriage ends. Because the only two options are just going to end in death or divorce.
Right, right.
So you have life insurance.
Yeah.
No one ever would look at you and go, you're so morbid with that life insurance. Like, why would you think you have to do that?
Yeah,
I'm
you're right.
protecting these people that I love. Like, I know something's good. Okay, so what is wrong with two people? When I was early in my career, I decided, I thought, you know what? They have these wedding fairs. Have you ever seen, I don't know if any of you were forced to do, you chose well if you didn't have to do this. This is good. You did well with the women in your lives.
Where you go see a bunch of vendors or something?
Yes.
My wife did that.
Okay, so she didn't make you go? She didn't make you go?
No, she's my big sister.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, this is like a whole
meant for
Indian
this is not,
thing. Yeah.
You ever want to see sad men at that thing? Like they're just like, it's like if you took her to the car show. She's just like, what the fuck are we doing here?
Yeah.
So but these things, they have photographers, the cake people, the invitations,
Criminals,
the
all of
little
them.
sweats,
Criminals.
all of the whole wedding industrial
they're all more
complex.
heartless than you.
The whole crew.
All of them
they
are
are. Please, I'm not the scavenger in this, buddy. I don't make it rain. I sell the umbrella. Like these fucking people.
They're monsters.
They're monsters. They're full on monsters. All right, because they convince
Fuck you,
her
Cinderella
that
Bride.
it's like you're actually gonna have a wedding and not give away scented candles. I didn't know we had to do that. You're like, well, I mean, if you don't care about care about your family, I guess you don't have to have the scented candles. She's like, babe, we need scented candles, But I went and I said, hey, listen, can I get a table? Can I have a table? Like you pay like 10 grand. Can I have a table? Just for prenups. Just for prenups. I said, and I promise I'll do it very respectfully. Say, hey, congratulations on your engagement. Let's talk about prenups.
Yeah.
They wouldn't take my fucking money.
Wow.
They wouldn't let me in the door. Wow. And why? Because there's a fucking fantasy they're selling people. And don't let reality get into the fantasy. And see, for me, I think I'm actually a true romantic because I like reality. Like, and my attitude is I like somebody who looks at the situation and goes, you know what? Whether we win, whether we lose, let's play this fucking game. Like, let's do this thing. Let's try. Let's shoot for it. This is a game we can't win. We're either going to die and lose each other, or we're going to divorce and lose each other. But fuck it, I want to take this ride.
Could you make the argument that going through that prenup process could lengthen the marriage?
I think it does. Well, here's what I'll tell you. I've been doing prenups for 25 years.
Yeah.
Okay? 25 years I've been doing prenups, and I always end up having a good relationship with the person at the end of the transaction. Because unlike a divorce, it's not protracted. It's relatively inexpensive.
Yeah.
I've probably only had to do 4 divorces of people I did prenup.
This is interesting to talk about.
I think it's a self-selecting group.
What are the percentages? Okay, so we know what the percentage of divorce is for marriage. What is the percentage of divorce for prenup?
You'll never know. And here's why. A prenup's not filed anywhere. Like I have celebrity clients who I did their prenup.
That'd be really important.
And they are doing interviews saying, oh, we don't have a prenup. And I'm like, yeah, you fucking do. It's in my safe. I wrote it. Wow. But they tell people, because why? It's one of those things. Everything on it, so here's the cake. Oh, here's us picking out flowers. No one's ever like, here's the signing the prenup. Because everybody goes, they got a prenup?
Yeah.
Oh, shit, all right,
Social stigma.
It's all social stigma. And there's no reason we have to normalize prenups.
Somebody's got to
we have to democratize prenups. We have to, like, by the way, prenups are they are so unbelievably easy for attorneys to draft. No one is making a bunch of money on prenups. We make our money on litigation. We make money on the way out, not on the way in.
Right.
So the truth is, like, there is no reason why it has to be reserved for the wealthy. This is something that can be democratized. There can be an access to justice. People could go, even with AI technology that's out there now. Listen, I've been involved in a startup called Trusted Prenup. And our thing is going to be, we are going to democratize prenups. It's coming soon because AI has made it possible now for there to be like a tree menu where people go in and go, okay, what do we want to do with alimony? Okay, what do we want to do when it comes to our estates? What do we want to do? And you can just pick and put it together, spit that document out. And by the way, it's not filed anywhere. You don't have to tell anybody that you did it. It can just be a discussion between you and this partner that you tell the most intimate things to. You have the most intimate experiences with. Why can't you have honest conversations about that?
So here hearing that, are the three of you guys gonna get post-nups?
No, for sure not. I mean, it's going to be really bad for.
I'm gonna have her watch this episode, so I'm not gonna get one.
And he's gonna show it to every girl. Like, baby, watch this. Is that last week? She got a different haircut. You're like, no, that was just a rerun, but it was a good one.
Our wives are going to watch this
He
episode.
said something about Abraham Lincoln, very racist. You know, it was a whole issue. We had to cut because we got it in 2 hands.
No, I think our wives are going to watch this episode for sure. I'm curious their perspective on it, but I
texted Mark this morning, and I was like, you got to tell your wife that you're spending the day with a divorce lawyer. Like, you'll definitely get some.
I brought that up 3 days ago.
Yeah.
I was like, by the way, you know, we're going to have this divorce attorney.
Yeah, my wife was definitely like, why are you having him on?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Your wives have never met me and all hate me, but hopefully by the end of this episode, they're like, you know, he's kind of a romantic. That's not so bad.
You are pro-marriage, you're just anti-marriage without a prenup.
Well, what I'll say is I think it's irresponsible to marry without a prenup. Okay. I'm not against. Listen, if you people want to do dumb shit, like people jump out of planes. Like, I don't fucking care. Yeah. You want to do some dumb shit, do some dumb shit. Yeah. Just admit you're doing some dumb shit. Yeah. Like, I'm just a fan of reality.
I'm an Indian kid who's a stand-up comic. You think
there you go.
I'm new to dumb shit?
Yeah. It's like that might be your brand. It's dumb shit. It is. But all I'm saying is at least own it.
Yeah. Believe me.
Say like, let's get weird. Fuck, because marriage is like the lottery. You're probably not going to win.
Yeah.
But if you win, it's so fucking good. Buy a ticket. Whatever, man. Do it. But I'm just the kind of guy that likes to. I don't go into the casino and go, I'll bet money. How much? I don't know. Whatever you guys decide. Like, that's fucking crazy.
No, it is high risk, high reward. And I think anybody who believes differently it's crazy. It is high risk, high reward. I just think if you play and you do. And one thing, you brought up a car analogy. One thing I laugh at is people who are like, you know, you get a car, you get an oil change every 3,000 miles, you get your transmission, you get all the constant maintenance. Marriage, people are like, no, you don't need to go to counseling. You don't. You do it one time, maybe
what's
you're
even
done
more
forever.
amazing about marriage, if you want to take the car analogy a little bit further, like, all right, so you get married in your 20s or your 30s, right? All right, when you're 20 years old, if I said to you, you can have any car in the world, what car do you want? You'd be like Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever, Aston Martin, anything. It might be a muscle car, okay? Yeah. And then after you bought it, I said, by the way, it's the only car you're ever going to have your whole fucking life. You'd be like, wait, what? Like, because I don't want to be 80 getting out of a Ferrari. Like, I'm going to, if I have kids, where am I going to put the car seat? Marriage is, you are choosing this person, and theoretically, you are saying in your 20s or 30s, you are saying, this person for the rest of my life. Now, again, at best, it's like those trees that grow next to each other and then become entwined, and it's like they grow together and they become something different, but they become something different together. So like that's amazing when it's done the right way. But to suggest that like, oh, it'll never change, we're always going to be like we were when we fell in love, that's foolish.
Jim, you need to switch the name. So it's called, I don't know why Al's been laughing at me. I literally, I got lost when Akash was like, I don't know, he was saying something, and I was like, what's going on?
He's a car.
But Al's been laughing at me, and then I started going like, am I making a weird face? Does it look like I'm regretting my marriage? Like, I got really self-conscious right there.
I know regretting the marriage face, and you don't have.
Okay, good. But I think that prenup is already so stained, like it's just so stained.
Yeah.
I think that if you called it like estate planning, like, for example, like my wife and I did like estate planning, and you're just planning for the worst case scenario. What if I die? What if she died? What if everybody died?
Dude, how fucked up was that?
Oh, it's awful. It's
when you're like, well, what if we both die?
And you're like, oh my God,
well, what if we both die and your sister dies? And then you're like, oh shit.
No.
You know,
it's horrifying. It's really fucked up. But
really important.
But it's important, and at no point during it was it this like contentious thing. Because you're all looking out for the best case scenario of everything. And I think prenup is already so radioactive. It's like, what is another thing you could do? But I really like that idea of like people, because you said it best.
Call it
like,
the marital contract.
Whatever it is, the government has a prenup for you whether you like it or not.
What?
And most people don't even know what that means, and it changes depending on what state you're in.
That's the part that scares me the most.
So you don't even.
Which is the government can change anytime they want.
And you could move to a different state and live there long enough. And now I think that state takes
they take precedence. 6 months. You've been there 6 months. They have jurisdiction.
So the reality is there is nobody that doesn't have a prenup.
Everyone has a prenup.
So.
And
you could look into what it is.
The thought that someone can change the terms and conditions and you can't opt out.
Yeah. This is the education.
Is
I think
crazy. Well, and that's the funny thing, because like, you know, a lot of like you know, I did an interview with Matt Walsh a bunch of months ago on the Daily Wire, and he was all about like no-fault divorce. No-fault divorce is the worst. It's the worst. So New York is a no-fault state. Most states are now no-fault states, which means you don't have to prove why you're getting divorced. You don't have to have fault. It used to be you had to show adultery, you had to show incurable mental illness, you had to call abandonment. So it was great for lawyers because we had to, like, before we even got into the real fight, we had to get into a fight of, are you allowed to get divorced, okay? So the states eventually said, look, this is stupid. If one person in the marriage has decided the marriage is over, guess what? The marriage is over. So now we're no fault. Well, a lot of people on the far right, Matt Walsh, you know, Ben Shapiro, it was like their big flavor of the moment for a little while was they were saying no-fault divorce is the worst thing in the whole wide world.
Because it incentivizes divorce in a way?
Well, like it's kind of like saying, you know, we got to get rid of all these emergency rooms because like everybody who's in there has broken bones. So people must be breaking bones so they can go to the emergency room. Like that's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, that lot.
Like no, they didn't break it. Like this is just there to solve the problem.
They have to pretend to care about
what I said to Matt, what I said to Matt is, look, why wouldn't we have, why would you have barriers to exit? Why don't you have barriers to entry? Like, why don't you have to take a class, or you have to sit down with a person who went through an ugly divorce, or like Catholics, they have the pre-Cana, where you got to sit down and you talk to couples who've been married for 30, 40 years, and the guy says, look, you're going to have to say I'm sorry for some shit you're not sorry for. That's part of being married. And you go, all right, cool, I can live with that. Like, have some barriers to entry. Like, I adopted a dog from ACC in New York City. You know how much fucking paperwork I had to fill out? They wanted to know my third grade English teacher's name. Like, they wanted to know, like, did Mrs. Soibel, does she think you'd be good? I'm like, she hasn't seen me in 40 years. You need to you want a piss test? Like, I'm adopting a dog you were going to kill in 2 days. Like, just give me the fucking dog. Get married, $50 you can pay Elvis in Vegas and you're married.
All right, guys, let's take a break for a second. I genuinely want to tell you guys about the best protein bar on the planet, okay? I mean this sincerely. This right here, the David bar, okay? What do we want out of a protein bar? We want fucking protein and we want it to have low calories. And ideally, we don't want it to have that much sugar. And then after that, can it not taste like cardboard? Those are the things we want. There's no other bar on the planet that's going to give you 28 grams of protein at 150 calories and 0 sugar. David figured it out, okay?
And it tastes
figured
good.
it out. I'm telling you right now, it is fantastic. It is the best tasting protein bar that I've ever had. And I'm not counting the ones that have 6 grams of protein. That's not even a protein bar. I'm talking about the ones that are actually marketed as protein bars. This has more protein than all of them, and it actually is delicious, okay? I'm telling you, adequate protein intake is critical for building and preserving muscle mass now and as we age. If you're an old guy like me, that muscle mass is gonna be what really allows you to play paddle for the rest of your life, okay? It's the only reason I lift weights is so I can play paddle. And unfortunately, when I don't do it, I start to get injured. It's that horrible. So David bars are the first thing that I'm gobbling down in the morning before I go get a workout or afterwards. For some reason, you got to get like your weight in protein in a day, which is like almost impossible, but I try my hardest. Anyway, David has the most protein per calorie, so eating 100 calories of David will make you feel fuller than eating 100 calories of any other bar. David is also now available in stores in NYC, so if you're in New York, stop by your local bodega to get your protein fix, and then tell the guy at the bodega where you heard about it. Let him know it came from Flagrant, okay? That's very important. I'm sure that will get back to David. Anyway, David comes in 6 delicious flavors, and they're all worth trying. Also, if you buy 4 cartons, you get the 5th one free, which will not happen at the bodega, so make sure you do that. Over at davidprotein.com/flagrant. I'm telling you, this is the truth, man.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, let's get back to the show.
All right, guys, I have a question for you. What do a mechanic and auto shop owner in Georgia, a taco restaurant operator in Arizona, and a life-saving medical innovator in Tennessee have in common? They are all small business owners thriving on TikTok. In the U.S. alone, over 7.5 million businesses, and I'm talking everything from family-owned shops to entrepreneurs who own tons of shit and are simply looking to get more rich. They're all using TikTok. It's how you compete. It's how you grow. 74% of businesses on TikTok say it's allowed them to scale operations, increase sales, and expand in new locations. And you know what that means? That means U.S. jobs. There are over 7.5 million U.S. businesses on TikTok, employing more than 28 million people, and that number keeps growing. Small businesses thrive on TikTok. So if you got a small business, you can learn more about TikTok's contribution to the economy at TikTokeconomicimpact.com. My wife is on TikTok now, and Andrew's entire goal is to make her make more money than me and make my life miserable. TikTok, that's a platform that will ruin my marriage. But I'm okay with it, because if she leaves me, I'm coming after her money. Let's get back to the show.
You know, it's interesting. Back in the day, I had a different business manager, and this is when we were about to get married. The business manager hit me up on the side. He's like, by the way, I think that, you know, we should get this prenup settled or whatever like that. And I was operating with good faith, right? So I was like, well, why don't you just get a lawyer, and then like my wife and I will talk to the lawyer, and then we'll see what the things are, right? Well, you're already smiling because you know where this is going.
I know where it's going.
Because I'm like, let's just figure out what these things are. Like, she's not against it. Like, it just, and we talk to the lawyer, and the lawyer goes, well, I don't know if I should be having this call with you and your wife. And I'm like, well, I'm not trying to fuck over my wife.
It's called potentially adverse interests.
But there's the perfect example of how could you then go forward with this agreement if, obviously it's rational, but how can you go forward with this agreement if the first time you're talking to a lawyer, he basically says, hey, she shouldn't be on because we're going to try to fuck her.
Right. Right.
Like,
right.
To me, I literally was going, just give me a lawyer so they can explain what's going on. And then if this is something that we even feel like we should do.
And I can't tell you, well, because here's the thing. What the lawyer is saying, and they don't say it in artful ways, but what lawyers are saying in that situation is you have potentially adverse interests. More for you is less for her, less for you is more for her, right? So what, but see, again, this is all stuff that technology has made easier. So people come to me and they go, look, my fiance and I want to talk to you about a prenup. I go, look, I'm not allowed to counsel you both. But here's what we can do. Let's do it via Zoom, record the entire thing. She will hear everything. You can play it for whoever you want, including your fiance. I can't give her legal advice, but I can give you legal advice, and you can play for her every word I say to you so that she doesn't feel intimidated. But see, this is the reality, is we can do it, solve for the actual problem. So what you're saying is, you're absolutely right. We're taking an adversarial system, and you're hiring lawyers whose job, theoretically, is to protect their individual client at the expense of the other, which, by the way, one of the things I'm least proud of my colleagues for is we're so used to dealing with warring tribes in a divorce that then when we're doing a prenup, we approach it the same way.
And it does leave a bad taste.
And these fucking people are getting in a car and driving home together. Like, this is not the same thing as a divorce.
That was the
so there should be a different approach, and there can be. We just have to rethink the way we do it.
Even the language, it was like, we just want to protect you. And I go, well, my wife's not trying to kill me. She's not trying to hurt me. Like, why are you using this language as if she's trying to do something nefarious?
Protect me from what?
Protect me from what? Like, why aren't we protecting ourselves? That's why I'm saying, like, the way that we approach this, and as you've talked about on the pod, I think has been really healthy, which is like, hey, just come together on an agreement that you think is superior than the agreement that the government is going to impose on you.
Totally.
Who wouldn't agree to that?
Totally useful. It makes total sense.
Why can't
it's a
you
much
go to
easier sell. And by the way, I think what you said earlier is absolutely correct.
Why isn't there a neutral party?
It's an opportunity for people to have a really important discussion.
But why isn't there like a lawyer that wouldn't represent each party, but just someone you could go to for information?
There are ways to do it. There are people that do it that way.
There should be
more of that. There are lawyers who work collaboratively who'll say, let's all meet together. We each have a lawyer. There's people that work in mediation to mediate a prenup. There's a lot of ways. There's more than one path up the mountain.
Like, you don't even have to do the prenup, but just inform us. Maybe we work it all out with you, and then we
There's so many ways to do it. But again, we're just used to doing it one way. We've handed it off to an adversarial system. And so to a person with a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Like, to a person who argues for a living, everything looks like an invitation to have a fucking argument. You know, I get paid to be paranoid. Like, my mother tells me she loves me, I ask for references. Like, that's my job. Like, that's my job, because I see the worst in people all day long.
That's heavy.
You know, so what you have to do is you have to get to a place where you go, okay, look, this is a conversation. Like, I guarantee when you and your wife did that estate planning, you probably had to have some conversations about, like, hey, something happens, like, who watches the kids? Like, and what do we do about this?
Do we trust that family member? Are they responsible enough?
But I tell you, I bet that deepens the level of connection, intimacy the two of you have. And by the way, doing that estate planning, like, we are never more alive than when we're in the presence of death. Like, when you stop and think about, holy shit, if I lost this person, like, what would that feel like? You want to hug that person 50 times more.
100%.
So to me, like, early on in a relationship, when you're still madly in love with each other and you're about to sign up for this, you know, I'm marrying you, it's going to be you, you, and only you. That's the time to say, you know what? If we ever hurt each other, what do we owe each other? How do we handle that? Like, how do I love you? How do I make you feel safe? That's a great time to have that conversation.
Yeah. This is really healthy. I really think there should be a neutral party that you could go to for information about like the laws in the state you are?
There's mediators. You can go to a mediator.
helpful.
You can go to an attorney and say to the attorney, look, I just want to have an educational conversation about this. I don't want you to draft the prenup necessarily. Again, I think you're going to see in the coming years, I intend to be part of it, you're going to see more of the democratization of prenups. Because I think the younger generation, like I'm older than all of you, and I have to tell you, one of the things, like I look at my 20-something-year-old sons, and I have a lot of hope for the future because I think that you're looking at a situation and going, okay, but why do we do it that way? Like, why do we do it that? We don't have to do it that way. And it's okay for people to say, hey, you know what? We can do it however we want to do it.
It just left a bad taste in both of our mouths. Like I understood like where the business manager was coming from because he probably has these clients that got a bunch of gold diggers trying to go after him. But it's like, I don't have that relationship with my wife. Like we didn't have, I mean, I had a couple bucks, but like, it's not what it was now. And we were operating in good faith. It wasn't even like, how do we keep this from you? Yeah. And then these lawyers on the side are trying to talk to me going, hey, well, you know, they should have somebody else do it. And then we don't talk. And I'm like, guys, this feels like I'm trying to screw over the person that I'm about to spend the rest of my life with. And I don't feel comfortable with that.
But I'd say something. Look, your career has been characterized by being somewhat iconoclastic. Like I've been a fan since the 441 days.
Respect.
So, like and I'm sure when you said, I'm going to put this out myself.
Yeah.
Some people who genuinely care about you.
Yeah.
And genuinely wanted to see you succeed.
Yeah.
Said, dude, don't do it that way.
Yeah, sure.
You'll never make a dime.
Sure.
And by the way, they were not trying to mislead you. They weren't trying to hurt you. It's not that they didn't trust you.
Yeah.
They were looking at it and going, dude, I don't want to see it go wrong for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so people can in very good faith give very fucking bad advice, right? Because if that's the right way to do it, they did it fucking wrong.
It reflects their own decision.
They did it wrong, right? Because if you go, no, I'm going to do it this way, and you knock it out of the park like you did, they go, well, what the fuck was I? Why did I do it this other way? And the answer is because it was peer pressure from dead people.
No, you're right. We get caught up in these antiquated systems, and they either work for us or we believe that we're invested in them, and then we don't want to break free.
And yet, and I don't mean to use you as an example, I'm not picking on you.
Please.
You had the intelligence to think of this, and the balls to try it. Okay? And yet, when it comes to getting married, there was never the thought of like, oh, you know, why am I going to let the government impose a rule set? Why wouldn't we figure out a way to do it? Now, why? I don't blame you for that. I think it's just never been a conversation we have as a society.
My parents also had a really good marriage, and like I think when you come from broken marriages, it's a lot easier to look at how badly it could go. Like, and I think that I'm very lucky to come from a very healthy marriage. And so in my mind, I'm like, oh yeah, it's just going to go like that. Right. So maybe there's a little naivete in me.
Right. And listen, I think there's a beauty to that. Like I wish I knew no astronomy when the stars appear. Like I think, you know, like I liked it when I was like, look at the pretty lights in the sky. When you're like, oh, actually that's something that flamed out 1 million years ago and the light's just reaching. I'm like, oh, fuck. All right, I wish I didn't know that. I just thought it was nice.
Ignorance is bliss.
So I think there's something very beautiful about not knowing this stuff. But again, I am a fan. Like practical. I think the truth is actually even more beautiful. Yeah. Like I think when two people say, I'm going to give you the ability to hurt me. Like I love you enough. Because I have to tell you something. I think it's fucking insane to love anything. I really do. Like a dog, a kid. Like you're going to lose it. Yeah. Everything you love, you're going to lose someday. Right. So to love something is to accept the inevitability that it's going to break your fucking heart someday. And yet we do it anyway because it's the best thing, right?
Because life is better with it.
Right. So to me, like that makes it more beautiful to say, you know what? If you break my fucking heart, it will have been worth it. Yeah. It will have been worth it because we got to do this.
Sold. Sold. Akash is getting a prenup.
All right, good.
Wait, can we ask the cultural question?
Yes. Who's the worst in divorce? Oh, culturally, ethnically, racially.
Wow. Wow.
Like who's the most ruthless? Who like treats the
Those are a bunch of different questions you just threw off. Yeah. I mean, what I'll say is like the Russians Russians, there's some, Chekhov's plays are dark for a fucking reason. Like the winters are long.
So
Russians come in sometimes a professional hit. Like they get cold. They
really?
Get real,
the husband to the wife, you're saying, or the wife?
Well, no, the wife more so even. Russian women we used to call them the Red Menace sometimes in the courthouse.
What would they?
Because like they're. I mean, God, it's really hard to say. I mean. Like the look, sometimes stereotypes are a real time saver. Let's just call that out. Let's just call that out. And sometimes they're wildly inaccurate. I get it, but sometimes they're a real time saver.
Yeah.
And anyone who's ever dated a Latina woman, they will burn your fucking house down, and then ask who Maria was who called. And you're like, that's from work.
Yeah.
She's like, well, you should have told me that shit before. And you're like, before you burned the fucking house down? Like, so that can be bad.
Right.
Russian women, in my experience professionally, not personally, professionally, they will, when you are now the enemy, when you have crossed that line, they get fucking ice cold. And there is nothing. When you're married to a Russian woman, there is nothing she won't do for you. And when you're divorcing a Russian woman, there is nothing she won't do to you. Like she will fuck your shit right up.
Well, give me an example of like, you don't have to give obviously a person, but something that they might have asked you to do or told you about.
Oh, I mean, they'll surveil the guy. Like they'll have people follow him. They'll blow him up to the IRS. I've had a couple of them blow him up to the IRS. Yeah, and they'll shoot first and ask questions later. Like they'll call the IRS and then go, by the way, I called the IRS. Not I'm thinking about calling, so I can go, that's a terrible fucking idea. Like nope, they're like, oh, I did it already, and you're like, okay, then I guess let's figure out what we're gonna do with that. So that's a big one. In terms of who, I mean, I will say again, I'm being very stereotypical. Italian women, a lot of Italian women in my experience, they're the most willing to put up with infidelity. They're
okay with the gumans?
No, it's just kind of like,
what is it? Fridays for the gumans.
It's like, he ran up, like it's like he's making a fool of himself. Like, but it's like, don't bring him to restaurants we go to.
Right.
Don't bring your fucking whore around where people. So like if you say, no, but it really is. Like, it's like, I don't want to, don't ask, don't tell. Yeah. But if like somebody sees you out with the girlfriend, you're making a fool of me.
You're embarrassing me.
Yeah. You're making a fool of me now. Yeah. Like you're running around with some girl, you're making a fool of yourself, and you go ahead and make a fucking fool of yourself. But you run around with some girl and our friends see you, you're making a fool of me. That's a different vibe.
Why do you think that is culturally?
I don't know. I'm not Italian, so I'm German. We're all about the blitzkrieg. But I don't. I don't know. I mean, I think it's all cultural. I think it's the way people, like what you said. You observe your parents' marriage. You observe the marriage
becomes
of people
normalized
in your family, and you just sort of go, okay, this is how marriage is.
Got it.
So there are a lot culturally. The idea of a gourmand, like the idea of like men are fucking idiots. They run around, whatever. Yeah. Who does he come home to? Who does he take care of? Who does he love? Who does he have kids with? That's what matters.
Maybe it's like certain cultures place more value on different things. So if he's like a dedicated husband, he's a provider, a protector, there's a lot of emphasis on those things. And if he's killing you in those three things, and then he does this little shit on the side,
dumb shit.
Whereas there might be other cultures, I think American culture puts like a lot of emphasis on fidelity.
Tremendous.
Maybe more so than European cultures.
Yeah, America has. I mean, the French, like, I think find like infidelity charming. Yeah. Like, it's sort of like, well,
listen, I've been taking my wife to Paris for years, bro.
Not rubbing. Well, don't leave her alone. But it is. There's sort of like a sense of, it's where existentialism came from. They invented, existentialism, democracy, and the menage a trois.
We
Those
like
are three pretty good things.
Like
they came up with a lot. And one of the things, they look at it like, people have because there's a difference between an affair and a dalliance. Like a dalliance is, like you said earlier, like, you do some dumb shit, you hook up with this person, it doesn't really mean anything to you. You told him you're a race car driver named Steve. Like, who the fuck cares? I'm not making that personal. I was a race car driver. No. Yeah. So the truth is, like, I think there's a difference between that and an ongoing affair.
Right.
Like I found my soulmate and it's this other person. That's a whole different level of stupid.
I didn't understand the difference until like getting married. Now I'm like, oh, I see. That's a whole different fucking thing.
It's a whole different
yeah,
fucking
yeah.
Well, and that's where I like people put in
I'm pro-
prenups sometimes. People put in infidelity clauses sometimes
In the prenups.
prenups.
Interesting.
And I discourage people from doing that because in order to make something legally enforceable, you have to define it. And so how do you define infidelity? Because if you define infidelity as like genital contact, that's one thing. But like, which would be more upsetting? Like that your ex got drunk and kissed some dude, or that she was texting this guy every single day and confiding her most personal secrets in with him? And like that, to me, that's much more of a betrayal.
It depends on how much less work I have to do, honestly. If she's not really annoying me, then
Like you're like delegating that.
Yeah,
You're like,
exactly. Exactly
she's
the word I
texting
use.
that.
Yeah, 1000%. Yeah,
that's
yeah.
better. But again, personal decisions, right?
Yeah.
Like this is a personal choice. Everybody's going to have a different definition of what it is that's offensive. A conversation worth having. What is cheating to you? You know, what constitutes cheating? This is going to become
What's
a more
the
and more
weirdest
relevant
thing that
question.
you've constituted as cheating in a prenup?
I discourage those clauses, so usually I don't put them in there, and I talk people out of them because I'm good at persuading people. But the weirdest infidelity clause I ever put in is that they wanted to very strictly define what constituted infidelity. So like oral genital contact and genital to genital contact, and then there was a whole
Oral to
debate.
genital.
No,
I mean,
what was great?
somebody's got to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? What's going on?
What I thought was so funny is they wanted to talk about digital to genital contact, meaning digital.
Fingering.
digits
Oh,
of your
yeah,
hands,
yeah.
okay? And I mean, first of all, I thought it was kind of
Get out.
quaint.
Grow up.
Yeah.
Grow
Because I
up.
was like hand jobs? Like
Yeah.
that's a thing?
Yeah.
Like I thought it was like a Betamax. It's like outdated technology. Like how do you give a hand job? Like you be a fucking grown up, use your mouth. Like that's insane. Like, hand job.
You know what that is? That woman is smart because that's the massage polish.
Yeah.
She's finding a way around
Yeah,
the massage.
yeah,
That girl is on it.
Anal is open still, though.
Yeah, it seems
Anal's
like
theoretically open.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, actually, there'd be an anal loophole.
Yeah.
You know, it did not say like anal to genital contact.
As an attorney, that's what we do.
Shit, I looked at Mark's head went there first. Mark found a loophole. It was like that. Yeah, you're hired. You're hired. This comedy thing doesn't work out. You're hired.
Okay, before we get out of here, what you were going to mention the super high net worth estates and just the history of marriage in general.
Yeah.
Well, how does marriage start?
Well, marriage, I mean, marriage as a legal definition, not the idea of a pair bond and two people, that started in a cave somewhere.
Yeah.
But legal marriage started essentially during feudalism. It was essentially we were joining clans. We were annexing lands, bringing together armies. Like it was some Game of Thrones shit. Like it was basically people saying we're joining our families together, we're having children together and merging these clans, merging these lands, merging these armies. It was essentially a land and wealth preservation technique.
So it was a financial agreement more so than an emotional one.
Absolutely. And then the idea of people marrying for love was a very different thing.
How old is that concept?
That concept goes back to depends on how.
times?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there was always a romantic element to things. There was always a connection. But the idea that like arranged marriage was not the right move and that you should choose who it is that you want to marry and that it should be based on the criteria
So
of who
gay.
you find sexually
gay.
attractive and compelling as a human
the gayest
being.
thing.
That's like the 40s and the 50s is when like Hallmark cards started that shit. Like what most people call love today was something that was invented in the 50s to sell shampoo. Wow. Like the idea that I just have this feeling in the pit of my stomach and that means we should sign up for a governmental contract and then fuck.
Yeah.
Like that is not. Like that's you had to sell that to people and you sold it kind of insidiously without telling them the whole thing. Nobody read the terms and conditions on that.
Right.
So I really think the idea of like modern marriage is very, very different than what our grandparents signed up for.
And it needs different requirements.
I think it needs, there is no scenario where, I forget who it was who said it, but we are primitive biological creatures living in medieval institutions holding godlike technology in our hands. How do you think that ends? Like, you think it ends well?
Yeah.
Or do you think it ends with some really uncomfortable shit that we've got to get our hands in and figure out?
Right.
And all I'm suggesting, like all of my public work
is about saying, it's just to say to people, look, guys, like, I love love, but I don't believe in fucking fairy tales.
Right.
So why can't we have an honest conversation? Because I don't think that understanding the realities of marriage and the legalities of marriage takes away from the beauty of deep connection with a romantic partner and building a life together, period.
Yeah, beautifully said. Any other questions, boys? Yeah.
Who has the most volatile divorces? Heteros, gays, or lesbians?
That's a great question. Lesbian couples have the highest rate of domestic violence. I remember saying to a colleague of mine, a gay man, an attorney, the first time I did a lesbian divorce, I said to him, wow, man, this is fucking ugly. And he looked at me and he went, it's two women. And I went, okay. You know, so that's, I mean, yeah.
Sometimes Al asks a question he knows the answer to because he has a point.
Lesbian drama can be a big thing. Gay men, you know, it's changed a lot because there was a time where gay men very often didn't have kids. And there were even like countries that refused to let gay men adopt, and there was not surrogacy law, and reproductive rights hadn't gone where it is now. And there wasn't marriage equality. So like gay men had a lot of assets. Because if you don't have fucking kids, you get a lot of extra money. Like for real, if you didn't have kids, you're like, yeah, that's a Ferrari, this kid, and this kid's a fucking house in the Hamptons. Like you got, kids are expensive. So gay men they didn't have kids, so they just had tons of fucking assets and they would argue over them, you know? In terms of like vitriol, I don't think there's a pattern to it. I think the reality is like everybody brings a different kind of crazy to it, you know, and divorce doesn't make people crazy. It just takes the crazy they had and turns the volume way up on it. So if someone was already anxious, now they're gonna have like a full-on panic disorder. You know, if someone was, because that's the part that's funny to me. Like what's really funny to me is people come in and they'll say to me with a straight face, like, can't believe my husband's being such a vindictive, cheap asshole. And I go, really? Like during the marriage was like, what was he like? And she's like, oh, he was a vindictive cheap asshole. I'm like, well, you're divorcing the fucking person you were married to. Like if this person was petty as fuck and nasty and selfish and okay, then that's who they're gonna be when they get divorced. Like if you're married to a realistic person who's prone to compromise and concedes the possibility of their own error, when you get divorced,
they'll do that.
That's who they're gonna, like my ex-wife's a lovely fucking person. Like I love her, she's great. There's a lot of people I love I wouldn't want to be fucking
How was your divorce with her?
Super friendly. We went to a mediator, we figured out what it was.
Because I've been wondering.
Kids were 5 and 7, we've had 20 years since then. She's remarried, couldn't be happier, to a great guy who's fucking nothing like me. Like patient, quiet, sensitive. Like she was married to me for, you know, a number of years, and like, you know, I'd come home and she'd start telling me about her day and I'd be like, all right, come on, skip to the end. Let's go. Like we gotta just fucking move. I got 3 stand-up fucking comics here, and I'm running the conversation. You think she stood a chance? Like, and the guy she's married to now, like, she just, you know, she'll sit there and she'll tell him, and then my cousin said this, and he's like, and he's genuinely interested. Like he's genuinely interested. And I look at it, I'm like, we are made different. We're just made different. And he's perfect for her. I love her enough to be like, he's perfect for her. Like, and I look at that. But you know, that's what, but she's when I married her, that's who she was. When I had kids with her, that's who she was. And that's why, like, we've had a really success. And by the way, I do not believe that marriage was unsuccessful because it ended in divorce. It produced 2 amazing kids who love their mother, love their father, like get along with all of us, like they're healthy, well-adjusted young men. So to me, like just because something ends doesn't mean it wasn't successful. And I think we have to approach relationships that way. That's why, again, having the conversation early on, when you're still madly in love and in that romantic, well, that's the time to talk about, like look at, if a person says to you, if every ex-boyfriend they have, they're like, that guy was a piece of shit, or every ex-girlfriend you have, you're like, she was such a piece of shit, that tells you something about this fucking person. Either that they have abysmally bad judgment, or maybe you're the fucking problem. And so I think it's worthwhile to have conversations when things start about how they end, period.
What's the dumbest reason you've ever seen for a divorce? Just on a personal basis, where you're like, well, this is
dumbest one?
Stupid.
we had a lot of like weird political divorces since 2016.
No way.
Wow.
Oh yeah,
Wow.
people that were like, "Yeah, he watches Fox News, I'm out."
That's
Like he watches
unbelievable.
Newsmax, I'm gone. Like a lot of like he voted for Trump.
Just because he has good taste. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, no, but for real, like political shit. I had. I
bet you wanted that
I've
Trump
always
voted
said
money.
the saddest one. The saddest one I ever had was this guy was in his like late 80s, and he left his wife of like 50 or 60 years for a 50-something-year-old woman that he was having an affair with.
Robbing the
And what
cradle,
was saddest about it to me was not that this like 60-year marriage was ending. It was that, holy shit, I'm still going to be led around by my dick when I'm in my 80s. Like, I legit thought, like, I'm not going to be chained to an idiot forever.
Yeah.
Like, I thought in my 80s, like, a beautiful
That's
woman
true.
would walk by and I would be like, oh, a human being. Like, I would just, and
that's true.
instead, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to be 86 and still want to fucking chase skirt? Like, that's fucked. Like, we're never going to be free. So that to me was, but like, yeah, people get divorced for some crazy shit. People
What's the most petty thing you saw in a divorce?
I once had a divorce there was a $25 million marital estate. They'd burned several $100,000 each in counsel fees. We'd gone through a bunch of litigation. We managed to settle the case. And the only thing we were down to was the division of personal property. And we couldn't agree on who got a $45 toaster oven, and the settlement blew up.
What?
Wow.
The settlement blew up.
Wow.
45 fucking dollars.
Did you not just go,
I just went, I actually did that. I actually said, I'm on Amazon right now, Prime delivery. I will buy everyone in this room this toaster.
And what
if we
is
could
it?
just sign the fucking deal.
'Cause it's never about the toaster.
It wasn't about the fucking toaster. What I will tell you, I'll tell you, I mean, I have a lot of stories, but I will tell you, this is one you'll appreciate. So I had a client who was a devout fundamentalist Christian. And he was later convicted, actually, of molesting kids and went to jail. But that's a side note.
See, it's not just Catholics.
It's not just Catholics. Yeah, it's not just Catholics.
Yeah, it's all of you.
But this guy, yeah, it's all of you. No, but he was a great. He was a client that was. He had a lot of money, and we had worked very hard to negotiate a settlement of his case. And the day comes to sign the settlement and to do what's called a voir dire, which is where the judge says to each party, "Do you understand the settlement? Did you agree to it? Or are you under duress?" You know. So these are the stuff. But like, it was great. I got him a great deal. Like a great deal. Like this was way better than it would have been at trial, and he didn't have to go through the trial, and this was great for him. And he meets me at the courthouse the morning of it, and he says, "Jim, I need to talk to you. I spoke to God last night.
Oh boy.
I prayed on it.
Oh boy.
And God said to me that I should take it to trial." And I said, "That is a terrible idea." And I explained to him again, here's all the ways that we're getting value here. Here's all the things. This is what it should be. And he said, "No, I'm sorry. I prayed on it. And the Lord has said to me, you know." So of course it fucking blew up. The whole thing went haywire. We start the trial. The lunch break, I go back, and my partner, Colin, he's been my law partner for many years. I go back to him and I tell him what happened. And he looks at me and goes, "You know, you played that all wrong, Jim." I said, "What?" He goes, "What you should have said is, what time did you talk to God?" 10:30? Okay. At 11, I talked to God. And he said, "Jim, my son in whom I am well pleased. How my blessings upon you.
Yeah.
By the way, are you going to see Steve later? When you do, tell him forget that shit I said earlier. He should take the deal." He's like, "It's unfalsifiable."
I try to hit him back with the
just hit him
voicemail.
right back. Just say. He's like, if you can't disprove what God said to him, he can't disprove what God said to you. You could have just said, "I talked to God a half hour later, and he said take the fucking deal."
Yeah.
So if that ever happens to me again, I'm
Were you kind of satisfied when you saw it go against him in court? And does that happen where, like, you're in court, you realize this person sucks, and it...
under the doctrine of fuck around and find out.
Yeah.
He fucked around and he found out.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, and listen, man, I give people advice, and I tell clients all the time, I'm like, look, $850 an hour, I'll mow your fucking lawn. I don't care. Like, I was a waiter. I've done worse shit for less money.
Yeah, yeah.
But like, you're paying me for advice. So if you want to pay me for advice and ignore it, go ahead.
Yeah.
Your shit blows up. It's good for me.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, the more protracted your case is, the better it is for me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to put myself out of business here. Like, I'm trying to settle your case. But if you want to fuck around and find out, fuck around and find out.
So those cases where you're in court and you realize, oh, I'm representing the villain.
Yeah.
Does that shift your, like, without you can't help it, it just like affects the way you...
Not at all. Not at all.
Because yeah, I'm wondering.
Because it's not how
I
it
don't think
works
I
for
could.
me. Like I look at it as it's a legal issue. It's a puzzle. It's strategy. Like, just like I think if a doctor, you know, is operating on a patient and he finds out that patient is a horrible person in real life, it's like, right, but I'm looking at this as like plumbing. I'm looking at this as like, this is a problem I'm trained to fix. Like, I have a God-given talent. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know how it
Yeah.
came about, but like, I see 7 moves ahead in a courtroom. Like, half the time, I don't even know why I'm making an argument I'm making. And then when I think about it, I go, oh, I did that so they would do this, so that then I could do this, that then would make the judge. Like, and if I'd consciously, you know, they've done studies on how by the time there's any micro movement from a pitcher that could be observed by the batter, it's too late for them to start the swing. But there's still, people hit fastballs.
Yeah.
So there is some exchange of energy that happens there. There's some micro something that can be sensed by a good hitter in baseball. It's the same thing. Like, I have a talent for this that I don't know where it came from. I feel blessed to have it. I love what I do. Like, I love to be able to do something that you love and do it at the highest level and do it well is like the greatest gift in the world. But I really, when I'm in a courtroom, like, I am way more comfortable in a courtroom than I am in my living room. I have no idea what to do with myself in my living room. I have no idea. I'm one of those people that, like, I'm great in war and terrible in peace. I have no idea what to do with myself. But in a courtroom, I know the rules. I know exactly what to do. And I go in and I am so calm and cool. It's like Neo in the Matrix. Everything slows down and I just know exactly what's expected of me. And I don't know where that comes from, but that's what happens is I no longer am thinking about this person or that person. I'm thinking about the job that needs to be done and how to do it, and that's it.
Flow state.
I want to ask lastly just how religion plays a role. I know you mentioned this guy talked to God, shout out to him, but like something like an arranged marriage in Hinduism, or like you know, Christian
Islam
fundamentalism, like Islam has different rules on marriage. How does that play in as it intersects with American culture?
Yeah, I mean, it comes in a lot. The divorce rate among cultures where there's a lot of arranged marriage is actually quite low because I think that can be attributed to the fact that people enter into marriage with a different expectation. Like in a lot of cultures where, you know, particularly Muslim cultures, I've had some experience with, where individuals marry and there's an arranged marriage that's arranged by the parents. It's really done with this sense that marriage is about a family, a partnership, building something together. It's not this overly romanticized. The idea is that we will grow to love each other. And love, you know, love is a feeling, but love is a verb too. Like to love someone is to act with love towards that person. So like there are plenty of examples of people who were in arranged marriages or marriages that they weren't quite sure, and then they grew to, through shared experience and common, like loving children together, they grew to say, you know, this is how it is. So I think that religion and people's religious backgrounds plays a huge role in how they approach the world. And how we approach the world obviously informs how we do our marriage. I mean, I will say, as someone who was raised very strict Catholic, you know, my Catholicism and my like sort of understanding of the rigidity of the Mass and when you stand and when you sit and how you address it, it's very much was good practice for the courtroom. Like, because courtroom's very much the same. Like there's people you treat a different way. There's someone who's in charge. There's, you know, there's like a hierarchy and you humble yourself before that hierarchy and you're not like bowing, and genuflecting is not something that's a source of shame. It's a source of pride. It's like I'm strong enough to humble myself in front of someone. So I think that religion at its best infuses every aspect of a person's life. And so I've seen some couples that are very religious. What is hard to watch, and I've done a lot of divorces where people have the same religious faith, and then one of them loses that faith. And it creates a schism in the relationship that is very hard to fix. Because religion has certain first principles from which people are working, you know? And so if you lose those foundational first principles, they tether so many other things in the marriage, like that it gets really, really tricky, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Man, that's kind of sad to lose your partner and your faith.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah, but sometimes, again, to throw the counterpoint, I've done a lot of divorces, for example, in the Hasidic community, in the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community. And that is a community, I don't think I'm giving anything away when I say that if you could choose between being a man in that community or a woman in that community, you're better off being a man.
Yeah.
Like women aren't allowed to drive, women aren't allowed, there's a lot of rules imposed on women that are challenging. It's a fairly, admittedly patriarchal society, culture, you know, enclave. And so sometimes those women will say like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't want to be in this game anymore. I want to step out of this. And that's very challenging. It's very, very challenging because it is very, very difficult to reconcile an ultra-Orthodox religious life and someone who goes fully in the other. Because people like, moderation doesn't play into it. People treat dandruff with decapitation. Like there becomes, like people go from I'm ultra religious to fuck that. I'm as far from religious as you can be. Like you ever want to meet somebody who's a virulent atheist? Find someone who was raised super religious. You know, it's like people go in that opposite direction. And it's challenging, but it also sometimes is, you know, we all change as time moves on. And that's the challenge, I think, is being honest with yourself about what's changed and then being able to be honest with your partner. I will tell you, doing what I do for a living, one of the things I've learned is the most dangerous lies are the ones we tell ourselves. And most of the time when we lie to our partner, we're lying to ourselves and then we're lying to our partner. And so that's why I'm always a fan of the honest conversation. Like just be honest, be frank, be candid, just say the quiet part out loud. Like, and I think that's why to some degree, like, and I'm not saying this to be, you know, I'm not trying to, you know, have your wives not be mad at me, although it would be good to have them not be mad at me or you. I think one of the things I've found about comics, I've represented a couple of comics, there is something really naked and honest about getting up in front of people and talking about your most vulnerable, embarrassing, dumb shit. It's also the funniest shit. It's the shit people can relate to. But you use that muscle all the time. So I imagine in relationship, you do the same thing, you know? And that's probably why, like, there are, like, I know a lot of comics that are incredibly happily married. I know some that never marry because of the lifestyle on the road and things like that, substance use issues, stuff like that. But I know a lot of comics that are very, very happily married because that same self-effacing insight and open, unashamed, like, calling out their own bullshit serves people pretty well in a relationship. So.
Okay, before we leave, is there anything that you've learned through all these divorces about what makes marriages successful?
I wrote a whole book on that.
Can you give us like, just so we end on a nice positive note, like, what are some things that you've felt?
I think you can learn a lot about keeping things together by watching how they fall apart. And that's why I wrote the book.
What's the name of the book? So we can
it's called How to Stay in Love: Practical Wisdom from an Unlikely Source. And you can get it on like Audible if you want to listen to me talk for 8.5 hours, or you can just get it anywhere. It's for sale anywhere. And you know, I've learned a lot by being a divorce lawyer about what keeps people together. What I've learned, I would say more than anything else, is just pay attention.
Right.
Just pay attention. Like, people get divorced the same way they go bankrupt. Very slowly and then all at once. Like, you don't get divorced because your husband's cheating on you, your wife's cheating on you. Your husband's cheating on your wife's cheating on you because there was slippage. There were all these little things. Like, you know those little things you did when you first were dating your wife to like let her know how beautiful she was and how like you like her better than other options. And all those little things she did for you that like made you feel like the fucking coolest guy and the best guy. And like you loved who you were when you're with her.
For sure.
You know, like you stood taller. Like you went like, this like this, like I might be the person this person thinks I am, you know? Like, when we start losing that, like there are these little things, like the advice I give, one of the pieces of advice I give in my book, the one that I get the most feedback on, as I said, leave a note. Just leave your wife a note. Just whatever, every day when you leave the house. Just takes 30 seconds. Just like, babe, like, was so fun watching that movie with you last night. Like, I married the prettiest girl in the world.
Yeah.
Can't wait to see you later.
Yeah.
Like, what does it take? 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Like, you know, what is that doing though? It's saying, I still see you. I still think you're beautiful. You're still worth my time. You're still worth my attention.
Yeah.
There's all these other things going on in the world. There's the kids. There's a million things, the 1,000 natural shocks that flesh is heir to, right?
Yeah.
But it's still you and me.
Yeah.
It's still you and me.
Yeah.
Like, and those little things, just pay attention.
Yeah.
Pay attention and don't let slippage happen. Because it is so much easier to stay a healthy weight than it is to get super fucking fat and try to lose 100 pounds.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. Once the wheels come off this thing,
It's hard to
it
get
is
them back
really hard to get back there. So just, if you care about this person and you care about the value of that marriage, just take that little bit of time to just, again, it can be just a kind word.
Yeah.
It can just be building this person up when people are around instead of taking the piss out of them around people.
Yeah.
Like, it can be anything. It can be any little gestures, but those are the things that make us fall in love. Those are the things that make us stay in love.
Yeah.
And when you let those little things slip, that's when the wheels start coming off. And there's a short road from that to my office. So I always just tell people, pay attention and just make a point of cheering for the person that you're with. That's it.
Amen to that. Thank you so much. brother.
Awesome. Great to see you guys.
Appreciate you, man.